The Angel in the House. By Coventry Patmore. Book 1. The Prologue. Mine is no horse with wings, to gain the region of the spheral chime. He does but drag a rumbling wain, cheered by the coupled bells of rhyme. And if at fame's bewitching note, my homely Pegasus pricks an ear, the world's cart collar hugs his throat, and he's too wise to prance or rear. Thus ever answered Vaughan his wife, who, more than he, desired his fame. But, in his heart, his thoughts were rife, how for her sake to earn a name, with bays poetic 3 times crowned, and other college honors won. He, if he chose, might be renowned. He had but little doubt, she none. And in a loftier phrase he talked with her, upon their wedding day, the 8th, while through the fields they walked, their children shouting by the way, not careless of the gift of song, nor out of love with noble fame. I, meditating much and long, what I should sing, how win a name, considering well what theme unsung, what reason worth the cost of rhyme, remains to loose the poet's tongue. In these last days, the dregs of time, learn that to me, though born so late, there does, beyond desert, befall. May my great fortune make me great. The first of themes, sung last of all, in green and undiscovered ground, yet near where many others sing, I have the very wellhead found, whence gushes the Pyrean spring. Then she, what is it, dear? The life of Arthur, or Jerusalem's fall? Neither, your gentle self, my wife, and love, that grows from one to all. And if I faithfully proclaim of these the exceeding worthiness, surely the sweetest wreath of fame shall, to your hope, my brows caress. And if, by virtue of my choice of this, the most heart-touching theme that ever tuned a poet's voice, I live, as I am bold to dream, to be delight to many days, and into silence only cease when those are still who shared their bays with Laura and with Beatrice. Imagine, love, how learned men will deep-conceived devices find beyond my purpose and my ken, an ancient bard of simple mind. You, sweet, his mistress, wife, and muse, were you for mortal woman meant? Your praises give 100 clues to mythological intent, and, severing thus the truth from trope, in you the commentators see outlines occult of abstract scope, a future for philosophy. Your arms on mine, these are the meads in which we pass our living days. Their Avon runs, now hid with reeds, now brightly brimming pebbly bays. Those are our children's songs that come with bells and bleatings of the sheep. And there, in yonder English home, we thrive on mortal food and sleep. She laughed. How proud she always was to feel how proud he was of her. But he had grown distraught, because the muse's mood began to stir. His purpose with performance crowned, he to his well-pleased wife rehearsed. When next their wedding day came round, his leisure's labor, book the first canto. I. The cathedral close. Preludes. I. The impossibility. Lo, love's obeyed by all. 'Tis right that all should know what they obey, lest erring conscience damp delight, and folly laugh our joys away. Thou primal love, who grantest wings and voices to the woodland birds, grant me the power of saying things too simple and too sweet for words. 2. Love's really. I walk, I trust, with open eyes. I've traveled half my worldly course, and in the way behind me lies much vanity and some remorse. I've lived to feel how pride may part spirits, though matched like hand and glove. I've blushed for love's abode, the heart, but have not disbelieved in love. Nor unto love, sole mortal thing, of worth immortal, done the wrong, to count it, with the rest that sing, unworthy of a serious song. And love is my reward. For now, when most of deadening time complain, the myrtle blooms upon my brow, its odor quickens all my brain. 3. The poet's confidence. The richest realm of all the earth is counted still a heathen land. Lo, I, like Joshua, now go forth to give it into Israel's hand. I will not hearken blame or praise, for so should I dishonor do to that sweet power by which these lays alone are lovely, good, and true, nor credence to the world's cries give, which ever preach and still prevent pure passion's high prerogative to make, not follow, precedent from love's abysmal ether rare. If I to men have here made known new truths, they, like new stars, were there before, though not yet written down, moving but as the feelings move. I run, or loiter with delight, or pause to mark where gentle love persuades the soul from height to height. Yet, know ye, though my words are gay as David's dance, which Michael scorned, if kindly you receive the lay, you shall be sweetly helped and warned. The cathedral close. Once more I came to Sarum close, with joy half memory, half desire, and breathed the sunny wind that rose, and blew the shadows o'er the spire, and tossed the lilac-scented plumes, and swayed the chestnut's thousand cones, and filled my nostrils with perfumes, and shaped the clouds in waifs and zones, and wafted down the serious strain of Sarum bells, when, true to time, I reached the Dean's, with heart and brain that trembled to the trembling chime. 'Twas half my home, 6 years ago. The 6 years had not altered it. Red brick and ashlar, long and low, with dormers and with orioles lit. Geranium, likeness, rose arrayed. The windows, all wide open thrown. And someone in the study played the wedding march of Mendelssohn. And there it was I last took leave. 'Twas Christmas, I remembered now. The cruel girls, who feigned to grieve, took down the evergreens. And how the holly into blazes woke the fire, lighting the large, low room. A dim, rich lustre of old oak, and crimson velvet's glowing gloom. No change had touched Dean Churchill, kind, by widowhood more than winters bent, and settled in a cheerful mind, as still forecasting heaven's content. Well might his thoughts be fixed on high. Now she was there. Within her face, humility and dignity were met in a most sweet embrace. She seemed expressly sent below to teach our erring minds to see the rhythmic change of time's swift flow as part of still eternity. Her life, all honor, observed, with awe, which cross experience could not mar. The fiction of the Christian law, that all men honorable are. And so her smile at once conferred high flattery and benign reproof. And I, a rude boy, strangely stirred, grew courtly in my own behoof. The years, so far from doing her wrong, anointed her with gracious balm, and made her brows more and more young, with wreaths of amaranth and palm. Was this her eldest, honor, prude, who would not let me pull the swing? Who, kissed at Christmas, called me rude, and, sobbing low, refused to sing? How changed! In shape no slender grace, but Venus, milder than the dove. Her mother's air, her Norman face, her large sweet eyes, clear lakes of love. Mary the first knew. In former time, ailing and pale, she thought that bliss was only for a better clime. And, heavenly overmuch, scorned this. I, rash with theories of the right, which stretched the tether of my creed, but did not break it, held delight. Half discipline. We disagreed. She told the dean I wanted grace. Now she was kindest of the three. And soft wild roses decked her face. And, what, was this my Mildred, she? To herself and all a sweet surprise. My pet, who romped and rolled a hoop. I wondered where those daisy eyes had found their touching curve and droop. Unmannerly times. But now we sat, stranger than strangers, till I caught an answered Mildred's smile, and that spread to the rest, and freedom brought. The dean talked little, looking on, of three such daughters justly vain. What letters they had had from Bonn, said Mildred, and what plums from Spain. By honor I was kindly tasked to excuse my never coming down from Cambridge. Mary smiled and asked, were Kant and Goethe yet outgrown? And, pleased, we talked the old days o'er. And, parting, I for pleasure sight to be there as a friend, since more seemed then, seems still, excuse for pride. For something that abode endued with temple-like repose, an air of life's kind purposes pursued. With ordered freedom sweet and fair. A tent pitched in a world not right. It seemed, whose inmates, every one, on tranquil faces bore the light of duties beautifully done. And humbly, though they had few peers, kept their own laws, which seemed to be the fair sum of 6,000 years. Traditions of civility. Canto 2. Mary and Mildred. Preludes. I. The paragon. When I behold the skies aloft, passing the pageantry of dreams, the cloud whose bosom, signet soft, a couch for nuptial Juno seems. The ocean broad, the mountains bright, the shadowy valleys with feeding herds. I for my lyre the music smite, nor want for justly matching words. All forces of the sea and air, all interests of hill and plain, I so can sing, in seasons fair, that who hath felt may feel again. Elated oft by such free songs, I think with utterance free to raise that hymn for which the whole world longs, a worthy hymn in woman's praise. A hymn bright noted like a bird's, arousing these song-sleepy times, with rhapsodies of perfect words, ruled by returning kiss of rhymes. But when I look on her and hope to tell with joy what I admire, my thoughts lie cramped in narrow scope, or in the feeble birth expire. No mystery of well-woven speech, no simplest phrase of tenderest fall, no likened excellence can reach her, the most excellent of all, the best half of creation's best. Its heart to feel, its eye to see, the crown and complex of the rest, its aim and its epitome. Nay, might I utter my conceit, 'twere after all a vulgar song. For she's so simply, subtly sweet, my deepest rapture does her wrong. Yet is it now my chosen task to sing her worth as maid and wife. Nor happier post than this I ask, to live her laureate all my life, on wings of love uplifted free, and by her gentleness made great. I'll teach how noble man should be, to match with such a lovely mate. And then in her may move the more the woman's wish to be desired, by praise increased, till both shall soar, with blissful emulations fired. And, as geranium, pink, or rose, is thrice itself through power of art, so may my happy skill disclose New fairness even in her fair heart. Until that churl shall nowhere be, who bends not, awed, before the throne of her affecting majesty. So meek, so far unlike our own. Until, for who may hope too much from her who wields the powers of love, our lifted lives at last shall touch that happy goal to which they move. Until we find, as darkness rolls away, and evil mists dissolve, that nuptial contrasts are the poles on which the heavenly spheres revolve. 2. Love at large. Weener I come where ladies are. How sad soever I was before, though like a ship frost-bound and far, withheld in ice from the ocean's roar, third wintered in that dreadful dock, with stiffened cordage, sails decayed, and crew that care for calm and shock, alike, too dull to be dismayed. Yet, if I come where ladies are, how sad soever I was before, then is my sadness banished far, and I am like that ship no more. Or like that ship if the ice field splits, burst by the sudden polar spring, and all thank God with their warming wits, and kiss each other and dance and sing, and hoist fresh sails, that make the breeze blow them along the liquid sea, out of the north, where life did freeze, into the haven where they would be. 3. Love and duty. And lived so truly from above. She was so gentle and so good, that duty bade me fall in love. And, but for that, thought I should. I worshipped Kate with all my will. In idle moods you seem to see a noble spirit in a hill, a human touch about a tree. 4. A distinction. The lack of lovely pride, in her, who strives to please, my pleasure numbs. And still the maid I most prefer, whose care to please with pleasing comes. Mary and Mildred. One morning, after church, I walked alone with Mary on the lawn, and felt myself, how we talked, to grave themes delicately drawn. When she, delighted, found I knew more of her peace than she supposed, our confidences heavenwards grew, like foxglove buds, in pairs disclosed. Our former faults did we confess, our ancient feud was more than healed, and, with the woman's eagerness for amity full signed and sealed, she, offering up for sacrifice her heart's reserve, brought out to show some verses made when she was ice to all but heaven, 6 years ago. Since happier grown, I took and read the neat writ lines. She, void of guile, too late repenting, blushed, and said, I must not think about the style. Day after day, until today, imaged the others gone before. The same dull task, the weary way, the weakness pardoned o'er and o'er, the thwarted thirst, too faintly felt, for joy's well-nigh forgotten life, the restless heart, which, when I knelt, made of my worship barren strife. Ah, whence today's so sweet release? This clearance light of all my care, this conscience free, this fertile peace, these softly folded wings of prayer, this calm and more than conquering love, with which not evil dares to cope, this joy that lifts no glance above, for faith too sure, too sweet for hope. Oh, happy time, too happy change. It will not live, though fondly nursed. Full soon the sun will seem as strange as now the cloud which seems dispersed. She from a rose-tree shook the blight, and well she knew that I knew well her grace with silence to requite. And, answering now the luncheon bell, I laughed at Mildred's laugh, which made all melancholy wrong, its mood. Such sweet self-confidence displayed, so glad a sense of present good. I laughed and sighed, for I confess I never went to ball, or fete, or show, but in pursuit express of my predestinated mate. And thus to me, who had in sight the happy chance upon the cards, each beauty blossomed in the light of tender personal regards. And, in the records of my breast, red-lettered, eminently fair, stood 16, who, beyond the rest, by turns till then had been my care. At Berlin 3, 1 at St. Cloud. At Chateris, near Cambridge, 1. At Ely 4, in London 2. 2 at Bonus, in Paris none. And, last and best, in Sarum 3. But dearest of the whole fair troop, in judgment of the moment, she, whose daisy eyes had learned to droop, her very faults my fancy fired. My loving will, so thwarted, grew. And, bent on worship, I admired whatever she was, with partial view. And yet when, as today, her smile was prettiest, I could not but note Honoria, less admired the while, was lovelier, though from love remote. Canto 3. Honoria. Preludes. I. The lover. He meets, by heavenly chance express, the destined maid, some hidden hand unveils to him that loveliness which others cannot understand. His merits in her presence grow to match the promise in her eyes, and round her happy footsteps blow the authentic airs of paradise. For joy of her he cannot sleep. Her beauty haunts him all the night. It melts his heart, it makes him weep. For wonder, worship, and delight. Oh, paradox of love, he longs, most humble when he most aspires to suffer scorn and cruel wrongs. From her he honors and desires. Her graces make him rich, and ask no guerdon. This imperial style affronts him, he disdains to bask the pensioner of her priceless smile. He prays for some hard thing to do, some work of fame and labor immense, to stretch the languid bulk and thew of love's fresh-born magnificence. No smallest boon were bought too dear, though bartered for his love-sick life. Yet trusts he, with undaunted cheer, to vanquish heaven, and call her wife. He notes how queens of sweetness still neglect their crowns, and stoop to mate. How, self-consigned with lavish will, they ask but love proportionate. How swift pursuit by small degrees, love's tactic, works like miracle. How valor, clothed in courtesies, brings down the haughtiest citadel. And therefore, though he merits not to kiss the braid upon her skirt, his hope, discouraged ne'er a jot, outsoars all possible desert. 2. Love a virtue. Strong passions mean weak will, and he who truly knows the strength and bliss which are in love, will own with me, no passion but a virtue 'tis. Few hear my word. It soars above the subtlest senses of the swarm of wretched things which know not love. Their psyche still a wingless worm. Ice-cold seems heaven's noble glow to spirits whose vital heat is hell, and to corrupt hearts even so. The songs I sing, the tale I tell, these cannot see the robes of white in which I sing of love. Alack! But darkness shows in heavenly light, though whiteness, in the dark, is black. 3. The attainment. You love. That's high as you shall go. For 'tis as true as gospel text. Not noble then is never so, either in this world or the next. P. 35 Honoria. Grown weary with a week's exile from those fair friends, I rode to see the church restorings, lounged a while, and met the dean, was asked to tea. And found their cousin, Frederick Graham, at honor's side. Was I concerned if, when she sang, his color came? That mine, as with a buffet, burned? A man to please a girl, thought I, retorting his forced smiles, the shrouds of wrath, so hid as she was by. Sweet moon between her lighted clouds. Whether this cousin was the cause, I know not, but I seem to see. The first time then, how fair she was. How much the fairest of the three. Each stopped to let the other go. But, time-bound, he arose the first. Stayed he in Sarum long? If so, I hope to see him at the Hurst. No, he had called here, on his way to Portsmouth, where the arrogant his ship was, he should leave next day. For 2 years' cruise in the Levant. Had love in her yet struck its germs? I watched. Her farewell showed me plain. She loved, on the majestic terms, that she should not be loved again. And so her cousin, parting, felt hope in his voice, and I was dead. Compassion did my malice melt. Then went I home to a restless bed. I, who admired her too, could see his infinite remorse at this great mystery, that she should be so beautiful, yet not be his. And, pitying, longed to plead his part. But scarce could tell, so strange my whim, whether the weight upon my heart was sorrow for myself or him. She was all mildness. Yet 'twas writ in all her grace, most legibly, he that's for heaven itself unfit, let him not hope to merit me. And such a challenge, quite apart from thoughts of love, humbled, and thus to sweet repentance moved my heart, and made me more magnanimous, and led me to review my life, inquiring wherein ought the least, if question were of her for wife, ill might be mended, hope increased. Not that I soared so far above myself, as this great hope to dare. And yet I well foresaw that love might hope where reason must despair. And, half resenting the sweet pride which would not ask me to admire, oh, to my secret heart I cite that I were worthy to desire. As drowsiness my brain relieved, a shrill defiance of all to arms, shrieked by the stable cock, received an angry answer from 3 farms. And, then, I dreamed that I, her knight, a clarion's haughty pathos heard, and rode securely to the fight, cased in the scarf she had conferred. And there, the bristling lists behind, saw many, and vanquished all I saw of her unnumbered cousin kind. In navy, army, church, and law, smitten, the warriors somehow turned to Sarum choristers, whose song, mixed with celestial sorrow, yearned with joy no memory can prolong. And phantasms as absurd and sweet merged each in endless chase. And everywhere I seemed to meet the haunting fairness of her face. Canto 4. The Morning Call. Preludes. I. The rose of the world. Lo, when the Lord made north and south, and sun and moon ordained, he forth bringing each by word of mouth, in order of its dignity, did man from the crude clay express, by sequence, and, all else decreed, he formed the woman, nor might less than Sabbath such a work succeed, and still with favor singled out, marred less than man by mortal fall. Her disposition is devout, her countenance angelical. The best things that the best believe are in her face so kindly writ. The faithless, seeing her, conceive not only heaven, but hope of it. No idle thought her instinct shrouds, but fancy checkers settled sense. Like alteration of the clouds. On noonday's azure permanence. Pure dignity, composure, ease. Declare affections nobly fixed. An impulse sprung from due degrees. Of sense and spirit sweetly mixed. Her modesty, her chiefest grace. The cestus clasping Venus' side. How potent to deject the face of him who would affront its pride. Wrong dares not in her presence speak. Nor spotted thought its taint disclose. Under the protest of a cheek. Outbragging natures boast the rose. In mind and manners how discreet. How artless in her very art. How candid in discourse. How sweet. The concord of her lips and heart. How simple and how circumspect. How subtle and how fancy-free. Though sacred to her love, how decked. With unexclusive courtesy. How quick in talk to see from far. The way to vanquish or evade. How able her persuasions are. To prove, her reasons to persuade. How, not to call true instincts bent. And woman's very nature, harm. How amiable and innocent. Her pleasure in her power to charm. How humbly careful to attract. Though crowned with all the soul desires. Connubial aptitude exact. Diversity that never tires. 2. The tribute. Boon nature to the woman bows. She walks in earth's whole glory clad. And, chiefest far herself of shows. All others help her, and are glad. No splendor 'neath the sky's proud dome. But serves for her familiar wear. The far-fetched diamond finds its home. Flashing and smoldering in her hair. For her the seas their pearls reveal. Art and strange lands her pomp supply. With purple, chrome, and cochineal. Ochre, and lapis lazuli. The worm its golden woof presents. Whatever runs, flies, dives, or delves. All daw for her their ornaments. Which suit her better than themselves. And all, by this their power to give. Proving her right to take, proclaim. Her beauty's clear prerogative. To profit so by Eden's blame. 3. Compensation. That nothing here may want its praise. No, she who in her dress reveals. A fine and modest taste, displays. More loveliness than she conceals. The morning call. By meekness charmed, or proud to allow. A queenly claim to live admired. Full many a lady has ere now. My apprehensive fancy fired. And woven many a transient chain. But never lady like to this. Who holds me as the weather vane. Is held by yonder clematis. She seems the life of nature's powers. Her beauty is the genial thought. Which makes the sunshine bright. The flowers. But for their hint of her, were not. A voice, the sweeter for the grace. Of suddenness, while thus I dreamed. Good morning, said or sang. Her face. The mirror of the morning seemed. Her sisters in the garden walked. And would I come? Across the hall. She led me, and we laughed and talked. And praised the flower show and the ball. And Mildred's pinks had gained the prize. And, stepping like the Lightfoot fawn. She brought me Wiltshire butterflies. The prize book, then we paced the lawn. Close cut, and with geranium plots. A rival glow of green and red. Then counted 60 apricots. On one small tree, the goldfish fed. And watched where, black with scarlet tans. Proud Psyche stood and flashed like flame. Showing and shutting splendid fans. And in the prize we found its name. The sweet hour lapsed, and left my breast. A load of joy and tender care. And this delight, which life oppressed. To fixed aims grew, that asked for prayer. I rode home slowly. Whip in hand. And soiled banknotes all ready, stood. The farmer who farmed all my land, except the little park and wood. And with the accustomed compliment of talk, and beef, and frothing beer, I, my own steward, took my rent. £300 for half the year. Our witnesses the cook and groom. We signed the lease for 7 years more. And bade good day. Then to my room I went, and closed and locked the door. And cast myself down on my bed. And there, with many a blissful tear, I vowed to love and prayed to wed the maiden who had grown so dear. Thanked God who had set her in my path. And promised, as I hoped to win, that I would never dim my faith by the least selfishness or sin. Whatever in her sight I'd seem, I'd truly be, I'd never blend with my delight in her a dream. 'Twould change her cheek to comprehend. And, if she wished it, I'd prefer another's to my own success. And always seek the best for her, with unofficious tenderness. Rising, I breathed a brighter clime, and found myself all self above. And, with a charity sublime, contemned not those who did not love. And I could not but feel that then I shone with something of her grace, and went forth to my fellow men, my commendation in my face. Canto V. The Violets. Preludes. I. The Comparison. Where she succeeds with cloudless brow, in common and in holy course. He fails, in spite of prayer and vow, and agonies of faith and force. Or, if his suit with heaven prevails, to righteous life, his virtuous deeds lack beauty, virtue's badge, she fails more graciously than he succeeds. Her spirit, compact of gentleness, if heaven postpones or grants her prayer, conceives no pride in its success, and in its failure no despair. But his, enamored of its hurt, baffled, blasphemes, or, not denied, crows from the dunghill of desert, and wags its ugly wings for pride. He's never young nor ripe. She grows more infantine, auroral, mild. And still the more she lives and knows, the lovelier she's expressed a child. Say that she wants the will of man to conquer fame, not checked by cross, nor moved when others bless or ban. She wants but what to have or loss. Or say she wants the patient brain to track shy truth, her facile wit, at that which he hunts down with pain, flies straight, and does exactly hit. Were she but half of what she is, he twice himself, mere love alone, her special crown, as truth is his, gives title to the worthier throne. For love is substance, truth the form. Truth without love were less than naught. But blindest love is sweet and warm, and full of truth not shaped by thought. And therefore in herself she stands, adorned with undeficient grace, her happy virtues taking hands, each smiling in another's face. So, dancing round the tree of life, they make an Eden in her breast, while his, disjointed and at strife, proud-thoughted, do not bring him rest. 2. Love in tears. If fate love's dear ambition mar, and load his breast with hopeless pain, and seem to blot out sun and star, love, won or lost, is countless gain. His sorrow boasts a secret bliss, which sorrow of itself beguiles. And love in tears too noble is for pity, save of love in smiles. But, looking backward through his tears, with vision of maturer scope, how often one dead joy appears, the platform of some better hope. And, let us own, the sharpest smart, which human patience may endure, pays light for that which leaves the heart more generous, dignified, and pure. 3. prospective faith. They safely walk in darkest ways. Whose youth is lighted from above. Where, through the senses' silvery haze, dawns the veiled moon of nuptial love. Who is the happy husband? He who, scanning his unwed life, thanks heaven, with a conscience free, 'twas faithful to his future wife. 4. Venus Victrix. Fatal in force, yet gentle in will. Defeats, from her, are tender pacts. For, like the kindly lodestone, still, she's drawn herself by what she attracts. The violets. I went not to the deans unbid. I would not have my mystery from her so delicately hid. The guess of gossips at their tea, a long, long week, and not once there, had made my spirit sick and faint. And lack love, foul as love is fair, perverted all things to complaint. How vain the world had grown to be. How mean all people and their ways. How ignorant their sympathy. And how impertinent their praise. What they for virtuousness esteemed. How far removed from heavenly right. What pettiness their trouble seemed. How undelightful their delight. To my necessity how strange the sunshine and the song of birds. How dull the clouds' continual change. How foolishly content the herds. How unaccountable the law, which bade me sit in blindness here, while she, the sun by which I saw, shed splendor in an idle sphere. And then I kissed her stolen glove, and sight to reckon and define the modes of martyrdom in love, and how far each one might be mine. I thought how love, whose vast estate is earth and air and sun and sea, encounters oft the beggar's fate, despised on score of poverty. How heaven, inscrutable in this, lets the gross general make or mar the destiny of love, which is so tender and particular. How nature, as unnatural, and contradicting nature's source, which is but love, seems most of all well pleased to harry true love's course. How, many times, it comes to pass that trifling shades of temperament, affecting only one, alas, not love, but love's success prevent. How manners often falsely paint the man. How passionate respect, hid by itself, may bear the taint of coldness and a dull neglect. And how a little outward dust can a clear merit quite o'ercloud, and make her fatally unjust, and him desire a darker shroud. How senseless opportunity gives baser men the better chance. How powers, adverse else, agree to cheat her in her ignorance. How heaven its very self conspires with man and nature against love, as pleased to couple cross desires, and cross where they themselves approve. Wretched were life, if the end were now, but this gives tears to dry despair. Faith shall be blessed, we know not how, and love fulfilled, we know not where. While thus I grieved, and kissed her glove, my man brought in her note to say, Papa had hid her send his love, and would I dine with them next day? They had learned and practiced Purcell's glee, to sing it by tomorrow night. The postscript was, her sisters and she enclosed some violets, blue and white. She and her sisters found them where I wagered once no violets grew. So they had won the gloves. And there the violets lay, 2 white, 1 blue. Canto 6. The Dean. Preludes. I. Perfect love rare. Most rare is still most noble found. Most noble still most incomplete. Sad law which leaves king love uncrowned. In this obscure, terrestrial seat. With bale more sweet than others' bliss. And bliss more wise than others' bale. The secrets of the world are his. And freedom without let or pale. Oh, zealous good, oh, virtuous glee. Religious, and without alloy. Oh, privilege high, which none but he who highly merits can enjoy. Oh, love, who art that fabled sun, which all the world with bounty loads, without respect of realms, save one, and gilds with double lustre roads. A day of whose delicious life, though full of terrors, full of tears, is better than of other life. 100,000 million years. Thy heavenly splendor magnifies the least commixture of earth's mold, cheapens thyself in thine own eyes, and makes the foolish mocker bold. 2. Love justified. What if my pole star of respect be dim to others? Shall their, nay, presumably their own defect, invalidate my heart's strong, yeah? And can they rightly me condemn, if I, with partial love, prefer? I am not more unjust to them, but only not unjust to her. Leave us alone. After a while, this pool of private charity shall make its continent an isle, and roll, a world-embracing sea. This foolish zeal of lip for lip, this fond, self-sanctioned, willful zest, is that elect relationship which forms and sanctions all the rest. This little germ of nuptial love, which springs so simply from the sod. The root is, as my song shall prove, of all our love to man and God. 3. Love serviceable. What measure fate to him shall meet, is not the noble lover's care. He's heart-sick with a longing sweet, to make her happy as she's fair. Oh, misery, should she him refuse, and so her dearest good mistake. His own success he thus pursues, with frantic zeal for her soul's sake. To lose her were his life to blight, being lost to hers, to make her his, except as helping her delight, he calls but incidental bliss, and holding life as so much pelf. To buy her posies, learns this lore. He does not rightly love himself, who does not love another more. 4. A riddle solved. Kind souls, you wonder why, love you. When you wonder why, love none. We love, fool, for the good we do, not that which unto us is done. The Dean. The ladies rose. I held the door. And sight, as her departing grace, assured me that she always wore a heart as happy as her face. And, jealous of the winds that blew, I dreaded, o'er the tasteless wine, what fortune momently might do to hurt the hope that she'd be mine. Towards my mark the Dean's talk set. He praised my notes on a berry reed when the association met. At Sarum, he was pleased to see I had not stopped, as some men had, at wrangler and prize poet. Last, he hoped the business was not bad. I came about, then the wine passed. A full glass prefaced my reply. I loved his daughter, honor, I told. My estate and prospects, might I try to win her? At my words so bold, my sick heart sank. Then he gave his glad consent, if I could get her love. A dear, good girl she'd have. Only £3,000 as yet. More by and by. Yes, his good will should go with me, he would not stir. He and my father in old times still wished I should one day marry her. But God so seldom lets us take our chosen pathway, when it lies in steps that either mar or make, or alter others' destinies, that, though his blessing and his prayer had helped, should help, my suit, yet he left all to me, his passive share. consent and opportunity. My chance, he hoped, was good, I'd won. Some name already, friends and place, appeared within my reach, but none her mind and manners would not grace. Girls love to see the men in whom they invest their vanities admired. Besides, where goodness is, there room for good to work will be desired. 'Twas so with one now passed away. And what she was at 22. Honor was now, and he might say, mine was a choice I could not rue. He ceased, and gave his hand. He had won. And all my heart was in my word. From me the affection of a son, whichever fortune heaven conferred. Well, well, would I take more wine? Then go to her. She makes tea on the lawn these fine warm afternoons. And so we went whither my soul was drawn, and her light-hearted ignorance of interest in our discourse filled me with love, and seemed to enhance her beauty with pathetic force. As, through the flowery mazes sweet, fronting the wind that fluttered blithe, and loved her shape, and kissed her feet, shone to their insteps proud and lithe, she approached, all mildness and young trust, and ever her chaste and noble air gave to love's feast its choicest gust. A vague, faint augury of despair. Canto 7. Etna and the Moon. Preludes. I. Love's immortality. How vilely 'twere to misdeserve the poet's gift of perfect speech, in song to try, with trembling nerve, the limit of its utmost reach, only to sound the wretched praise of what tomorrow shall not be, so mocking with immortal bays the crossbones of mortality. I do not thus. My faith is fast that all the loveliness I sing is made to bear the mortal blast, and blossom in a better spring. Doubts of eternity ne'er cross the lover's mind, divinely clear. Forever is the gain or loss which maddens him with hope or fear. So trifles serve for his relief, and trifles make him sick and pale. And yet his pleasure and his grief are both on a majestic scale. The chance, indefinitely small, of issue infinitely great, eclipses finite interests all, and has the dignity of fate. 2. Heaven and earth. How long shall men deny the flower, because its roots are in the earth, and crave with tears from God the dower they have, and have despised as dearth, and scorn as low their human lot, with frantic pride, too blind to see that standing on the head makes not, either for ease or dignity, but fools shall feel like fools to find, too late informed, that angels' mirth is one in cause, and mode, and kind, with that which they profaned on earth. P. 62 Etna and the Moon. To soothe my heart I, feigning, seized a pen, and, showering tears, declared my unfeigned passion, sadly pleased only to dream that so I dared. Thus was the fervid truth confessed, but wild with paradox ran the plea, as wilfully in hope depressed, yet bold beyond hope's warranty. Oh, more than dear, be more than just, and do not deafly shut the door. I claim no right to speak, I trust. Mercy, not right, yet who has more? For, if more love makes not more fit, of claimants here none's more nor less, since your great worth does not permit degrees in our unworthiness. Yet, if there's aught that can be done, with arduous labor of long years, by which you'll say that you'll be won, oh tell me, and I'll dry my tears. Ah, no, if loving cannot move, how foolishly must labor fail. The use of deeds is to show love, If signs suffice, let these avail. Your name pronounced brings to my heart a feeling like the violet's breath, which does so much of heaven impart. It makes me amorous of death. The winds that in the garden toss, the guelder roses give me pain, alarm me with the dread of loss, exhaust me with the dream of gain. I'm troubled by the clouds that move, tired by the breath which I respire, and ever, like a torch, my love, thus agitated, flames the higher. All's hard that has not you for goal. I scarce can move my hand to write, for love engages all my soul, and leaves the body void of might. The wings of will spread idly, as do the birds that in a vacuum lies. My breast, asleep with dreams of you, forgets to breathe, and bursts in sighs. I see no rest this side the grave, no rest nor hope, from you apart. Your life is in the rose you gave. Its perfume suffocates my heart. There's no refreshment in the breeze. The heaven o'erwhelms me with its blue. I faint beside the dancing seas. Winds, skies, and waves are only you. The thought or act which not intends you service seems a sin and shame. In that one only object ends conscience, religion, honor, fame. Ah, could I put off love? Could we never have met? What calm, what ease! Nay, but, alas, this remedy were 10 times worse than the disease. For when, indifferent, I pursue the world's best pleasures for relief, my heart, still sickening back to you, finds none like memory of its grief. And, though 'twere very hell to hear you felt such misery as I, all good, save you, were far less dear than is that ill with which I die. Where'er I go, wandering forlorn, you are the world's love, life, and glee. Oh, wretchedness not to be borne! If she that's love should not love me, I could not write another word, through pity for my own distress. And forth I went, untimely stirred, to make my misery more or less. I went, beneath the heated noon, to where, in her simplicity, she sate at work. And, as the moon on Etna smiles, she smiled on me. But, now and then, in cheek and eyes, I saw, or fancied, such a glow, as when, in summer evening skies, some say, it lightens, some say, no. Honoria, I began, no more. The Dean, by ill or happy hap, came home, and Wolf burst in before, and put his nose upon her lap. Canto 8. Sarum Plain. Preludes. I. Life of life. What's that, which, ere I spake, was gone? So joyful and intense a spark, that, whilst o'erhead the wonder shone, the day, before but dull, grew dark. I do not know, but this I know, that, had the splendor lived a year, the truth that I some heavenly show did see, could not be now more clear. This know I too, might mortal breath express the passion then inspired. Evil would die a natural death, and nothing transient be desired. An error from the soul would pass, and leave the senses pure and strong, as sunbeams. But the best, alas, has neither memory nor tongue. 2. The revelation. An idle poet, here and there, looks round him, but, for all the rest, the world, unfathomably fair, is duller than a witling's jest. Love wakes men, once a lifetime each. They lift their heavy lids, and look. And, lo, what one sweet page can teach. They read with joy, then shut the book. And some give thanks, and some blaspheme. And most forget. But, either way, That and the child's unheeded dream is all the light of all their day. 3. The spirit's epochs. Not in the crises of events, of compassed hopes, or fears fulfilled, or acts of gravest consequence, are life's delight and depth revealed. The day of days was not the day that went before, or was postponed. The night death took our lamp away was not the night on which we groaned. I drew my bride, beneath the moon, across my threshold, happy hour. But, ah, the walk that afternoon! We saw the water flags in flower. 4. The prototype. Lo, there, whence love, life, light are poured, veiled with impenetrable rays, amidst the presence of the Lord. Co-equal wisdom laughs and plays. Female and male God made the man. His image is the whole, not half. And in our love we dimly scan the love which is between himself. V. The praise of love. Spirit of knowledge, grant me this, a simple heart and subtle wit, to praise the thing whose praise it is, that all which can be praised is it. Sarum. Plain. Breakfast enjoyed, mid hush of boughs, and perfumes through the windows blown. Brief worship done, which still endows the day with beauty not its own, with intervening pause, that paints each act with honor, life with calm, as old processions of the saints at every step have wands of palm. We rose, the ladies went to dress, and soon returned with smiles. And then plans fixed, to which the dean said, yes. Once more we drove to Salisbury Plain. We passed my house, observed with praise by Mildred, Mary acquiesced, and left the old and lazy grays below the hill, and walked the rest. The moods of love are like the wind, and none knows whence or why they rise. I ne'er before felt heart and mind so much affected through mine eyes. How cognate with the flattered air, how formed for earth's familiar zone, she moved. How feeling and how fair, for others' pleasure and her own. And, ah, the heaven of her face! How, when she laughed, I seemed to see the gladness of the primal grace. And how, when grave, its dignity. Of all she was, the least not less, delighted the devoted eye. No fold or fashion of her dress her fairness did not sanctify. I could not else than grieve. What cause? Was I not blessed? Was she not there? Likely my own. Ah, that it was! How like seemed likely to despair. And yet to see her so benign, so honorable and womanly, in every maiden kindness mine, and full of gayest courtesy, was pleasure so without alloy, such unreproved, sufficient bliss. I almost wished, the while, that joy might never further go than this. So much it was as now to walk, and humbly by her gentle side, observe her smile and hear her talk. Could it be more to call her bride? I feigned her one, the mind finite, puzzled and fagged by stress and strain, to comprehend the whole delight, made bliss more hard to bear than pain. All good, save heart to hold, so summed, and grasped, the thought smote, like a knife. How lapsed mortality had numbed the feelings to the feast of life. How passing good breathes sweetest breath, and love itself at highest reveals, more black than bright, commending death, by teaching how much life conceals. But happier passions these subdued, when from the close and sultry lane, with eyes made bright by what they viewed, we emerged upon the mounded plain. As to the breeze a flag unfurls, my spirit expanded, sweetly embraced By those same gusts that shook her curls, and vexed the ribbon at her waist. To the future cast I future cares. Breathed with a heart unfreighted, free. And laughed at the presumptuous airs that with her muslins folded me. Till, one vague rack along my sky, the thought that she might ne'er be mine lay half forgotten by the eye. So feasted with the sun's warm shine, by the great stones we chose our ground for shade. And there, in converse sweet, took luncheon. On a little mound sat the three ladies, at their feet I sat, and smelt the heath's smell, plucked harebells, turned the telescope to the country round. My life went well, for once, without the wheels of hope. And I despised the Druid rocks that scowled their chill gloom from above, like churls whose stolid wisdom mocks the lightness of immortal love. And, as we talked, my spirit quaffed the sparkling winds, the candid skies. At our untruthful strangeness laughed. I kissed with mine her smiling eyes, and sweet familiarness and awe prevailed that hour on either part. And in the eternal light I saw that she was mine, though yet my heart could not conceive, nor would confess such contentation. And there grew more form and more fair stateliness than heretofore between us two. Canto 9. Sahara. Preludes. I. The wife's tragedy. Man must be pleased, but him to please is woman's pleasure. Down the gulf of his condoled necessities she casts her best, she flings herself. How often flings for naught, and yokes her heart to an icicle or whim, whose each impatient word provokes another, not from her, but him. While she, too gentle even to force his penitence by kind replies, waits by, expecting his remorse, with pardon in her pitying eyes. And if he once, by shame oppressed, a comfortable word confers, she leans and weeps against his breast, and seems to think the sin was hers. And whilst his love has any life, or any eye to see her charms, at any time, she's still his wife, dearly devoted to his arms. She loves with love that cannot tire. And when, woe, she loves alone, through passionate duty love springs higher, as grass grows taller round a stone. 2. Common graces. Is nature in thee too spiritless, ignoble, impotent, and dead, to prize her love and loveliness, the more for being thy daily bread? And art thou one of that vile crew, which see no splendor in the sun, praising alone the good that's new, or over, or not yet begun? And has it dawned on thy dull wits, that love warms many as soft a nest, that, though swathed round with benefits, thou art not singularly blessed, and fail thy thanks for gifts divine, the common food of many a heart, because they are not only thine? Beware lest in the end thou art cast for thy pride forth from the fold, too good to feel the common grace of blissful myriads who behold forevermore the Father's face. 3. The zest of life. Give thanks. It is not time misspent. Worst fare this betters, and the best, wanting this natural condiment, breeds crudeness, and will not digest. The grateful love the giver's law, but those who eat, and look no higher, from sin or doubtful sanction draw the biting sauce their feasts require. Give thanks for naught, if you've no more. And, having all things, do not doubt that naught, with thanks, is blessed before whatever the world can give, without. 4. Fool and wise. Endow the fool with sun and moon. Being his, he holds them mean and low. But to the wise a little boon is great, because the giver's so. P. 77 Sahara. I stood by Honor and the Dean. They seated in the London train. A month from her. Yet this had been ere now, without such bitter pain. But neighborhood makes parting light. And distance remedy has none. Alone, she near, I felt as might a blind man sitting in the sun. She near, all for the time was well. Hope's self, when we were far apart. With lonely feeling, like the smell of heath on mountains, filled my heart. To see her seemed delight's full scope. And her kind smile, so clear of care. Even then, though darkening all my hope, gilded the cloud of my despair. She had forgot to bring a book. I lent one, blamed the print for old. And did not tell her that she took a Petrarch worth its weight in gold. I hoped she'd lose it, for my love was grown so dainty, high, and nice. It prized no luxury above the sense of fruitless sacrifice. The bell rang, and, with shrieks like death, link catching link, the long array, with ponderous pulse and fiery breath, proud of its burthen, swept away. And through the lingering crowd I broke, sought the hillside, and thence, heartsick, beheld, far off, the little smoke along the landscape kindling quick. What should I do, where should I go? Now she was gone, my love. For mine she was, whatever here below crossed or usurped my right divine. Life, without her, was vain and gross. The glory from the world was gone. And on the gardens of the close, as on Sahara shone the sun, oppressed with her departed grace. My thoughts on ill surmises fed the harmful influence of the place. She went to filled my soul with dread. She, mixing with the people there, might come back altered, having caught the foolish, fashionable air of knowing all, and feeling not. Or, giddy with her beauty's praise, she'd scorn our simple country life, its wholesome nights and tranquil days, and would not deign to be my wife. My wife, ah, tenderest word. How oft, as fearful she might hear, whispering that name of wife, I heard the chiming of the inmost sphere. I passed the home of my regret. The clock was striking in the hall, and one sad window open yet, although the dews began to fall. Ah, distance showed her beauty's scope. How light of heart and innocent, that loveliness which sickened hope, and wore the world for ornament. How perfectly her life was framed, and, thought of in that passionate mood, how her affecting graces shamed the vulgar life that was but good. I wondered, would her bird be fed, her rose plots watered, she not by, loading my breast with angry dread of light, unlikely injury. So, filled with love and fond remorse, I paced the close, its every part endowed with reliquary force, to heal and raise from death my heart. How tranquil and unsecular the precinct! Once, through yonder gate, I saw her go, and knew from far her love-lit form and gentle state. Her dress had brushed this wicket. Here she turned her face, and laughed, with light, like moonbeams on a wavering mere. Weary beforehand of the night, I went. The blackbird, in the wood, talked by himself, and eastward grew. In heaven the symbol of my mood, where one bright star engrossed the blue. Canto X. Church to church. Preludes. I. The joyful wisdom. Would wisdom for herself be wooed, and wake the foolish from his dream? She must be glad as well as good, and must not only be, but seem Beauty and joy are hers by right. And, knowing this, I wonder less that she's so scorned, when falsely dight in misery and ugliness. What's that which heaven to man endears? And that which eyes no sooner see than the heart says, with floods of tears, ah, that's the thing which I would be. Not childhood, full of frown and fret. Not youth, impatient to disown those visions high, which to forget were worse than never to have known. Not worldlings, in whose fair outside nor courtesy nor justice fails, thanks to cross-pulling vices tied, like Samson's foxes, by the tails. Not poets. Real things are dreams, when dreams are as realities, and boasters of celestial gleams go stumbling for want of eyes. Not patriots or people's men, in whom two worse-matched evils meet than ever sought a Dullam's den. Base conscience and a high conceit. Not new-made saints, their feelings iced, their joy in man and nature gone, who sing, O easy yoke of Christ, but find 'tis hard to get it on. Not great men, even when they're good. The good man whom the time makes great by some disgrace of chance or blood, God fails not to humiliate. Not these, but souls, found here and there, oases in our waste of sin, where everything is well and fair, and heaven remits its discipline, whose sweet subdual of the world the worldling scarce can recognize, and ridicule, against it hurled, drops with a broken sting and dies. Who nobly, if they cannot know whether a scutcheon's dubious field carries a falcon or a crow, fancy a falcon on the shield, yet, ever careful not to hurt God's honor, who creates success. Their praise of even the best desert is but to have presumed no less. Who, should their own life plaudits bring, are simply vexed at heart that such an easy, yea, delightful thing should move the minds of men so much. They live by law, not like the fool, but like the bard, who freely sings in strictest bonds of rhyme and rule, and finds in them, not bonds, but wings, postponing still their private ease to courtly custom, appetite subjected to observances, to banquet goes with full delight. Nay, continence and gratitude so cleanse their lives from earth's alloy, they taste, in nature's common food, nothing but spiritual joy. They shine like Moses in the face, and teach our hearts, without the rod, that God's grace is the only grace, and all grace is the grace of God. 2. The devices. Love, kissed by wisdom, wakes twice love. And wisdom is, through loving, wise. Let dove and snake and dove. This wisdom's be, that love's device. Going to church. I woke at 3. For I was bid to breakfast with the dean at 9. And thence to church. My curtain slid. I found the dawning Sunday fine, and could not rest, so rose. The air was dark and sharp, the roost birds cheeped, here am I, sweet. Are you there? On Avon's misty flats the herds expected, comfortless, the day which slowly fired the clouds above. The cock screamed, somewhere far away. In sleep the matrimonial dove was crooning. No wind waked the wood, nor moved the midnight river damps, nor thrilled the poplar, quiet stood the chestnut with its 1,000 lamps. The moon shone yet, but weak and drear, and seemed to watch, with bated breath, the landscape, all made sharp and clear by stillness, as a face by death. My prayer as for her being done, I took occasion by the quiet hour To find and know, by rule and book, the rights of love's beloved power. Fronting the question without ruth. Nor ignorant that, evermore, if men will stoop to kiss the truth, she lifts them higher than before. From above. Such light required, as now should once for all destroy the folly which at times desired a sanction for so great a joy. Thenceforth, and through that prayer, I trod a path with no suspicions dim. I loved her in the name of God, and for the ray she was of him. I ought to admire much more, not less. Her beauty was a godly grace, the mystery of loveliness, which made an altar of her face, was not of the flesh, though that was fair, but a most pure and living light, without a name, by which the rare and virtuous spirit flamed to sight. If oft, in love, effect lacked cause, and cause effect, 'twere vain to soar reasons to seek for that which was reason itself, or something more. My joy was no idolatry, upon the ends of the vile earth bent. For when I loved her most, then I most yearned for more divine content. That other doubt, which, like a ghost, in the brain's darkness haunted me, was thus resolved: him loved I most, but her I loved most sensibly. Lastly, my giddiest hope allowed no selfish thought, or earthly smirch. And forth I went, in peace, and proud, to take my passion into church, grateful and glad to think that all such doubts would seem entirely vain to her whose nature's lighter fall made no divorce of heart from brain. I found them, with exactest grace, and fresh as spring, for spring attired, and by the radiance in her face, I saw she felt she was admired. And, through the common luck of love, a moment's fortunate delay, to fit the little lilac glove, gave me her arm. And I and they true to this and every hour, as if attended on by time, entered the church while yet the tower was noisy with the finished chime. Her soft voice, singularly heard beside me, in her chant, withstood the roar of voices, like a bird soul warbling in a windy wood. And, when we knelt, she seemed to be an angel teaching me to pray. And all through the high liturgy, my spirit rejoiced without allay, being, for once, borne clearly above all banks and bars of ignorance, by this bright springtide of pure love, and floated in a free expanse, whence it could see from side to side the obscurity from every part, winnowed away and purified by the vibrations of my heart. Canto 11. The Dance. Preludes. I, the daughter of Eve, the woman's gentle mood o'erstepped, withers my love, that lightly scans the rest, and does in her accept all her own faults, but none of man's. As man I cannot judge her ill, or honor her fair station less, who, with a woman's errors, still preserves a woman's gentleness. For thus I think, if one I see, who disappoints my high desire, how admirable would she be, could she but know how I admire. Or fail she, though from blemish clear, to charm, I call it my defect. And so my thought, with reverent fear, to err by doltish disrespect, imputes love's great regard, and says, though unapparent 'tis to me, be sure this queen some other sways with well-perceived supremacy. Behold the worst light from above on the blank ruin writes, forbear. Her first crime was unguarded love, and all the rest, perhaps, despair. Discrowned, dejected, but not lost. Oh, sad one, with no more a name or place in all the honored host. Of maiden and of matron fame. Grieve on. But, if thou grievest right, 'tis not that these abhor thy state. Nor wouldst thou lower the least the height, which makes thy casting down so great. Good is thy lot in its degree. For hearts that verily repent are burdened with impunity, and comforted by chastisement. Sweet patience sanctify thy woes. And doubt not but our God is just. Albeit unscathed thy traitor goes, and thou art stricken to the dust. That penalty's the best to bear, which follows soonest on the sin. And guilt's a game where losers fare better than those who seem to win. 2. Aurea dicta. 'Tis truth, although this truth's a star, too deep enskied for all to see. As poets of grammar, lovers are the fountains of morality. Child, would you shun the vulgar doom? In love disgust, in death despair? No, death must come and love must come. And so for each your soul prepare. Who pleasure follows pleasure slays. God's wrath upon himself he wreaks. But all delights rejoice his days. Who takes with thanks, and never seeks. The wrong is made and measured by the right's inverted dignity. Change love to shame, as love is high. So low in hell your bed shall be. How easy to keep free from sin. How hard that freedom to recall. For dreadful truth it is that men forget the heavens from which they fall. Lest sacred love your soul ensnare. With pious fancy still infer. How loving and how lovely fair must he be who has fashioned her. Become whatever good you see. Nor sigh if, forthwith, fades from view the grace of which you may not be the subject and spectator too. Love's perfect blossom only blows where noble manners veil defect. Angels may be familiar. Those who ere each other must respect. Love blabbed of is a great decline. A careless word unsanctioned sense. But he who casts heaven's truth to swine consummates all incontinence. Not to unveil before the gaze of an imperfect sympathy. In aught we are, is the sweet praise. And the main sum of modesty. The dance. My memory of heaven awakes. She's not of the earth, although her light, as lantern by her body, makes a piece of it past bearing bright. So innocently proud and fair she is, that wisdom sings for glee. And folly dies, breathing one air. With such a bright-cheeked chastity. And though her charms are a strong law, compelling all men to admire, they go so clad with lovely awe. None but the noble dares desire. He who would seek to make her his will comprehend that souls of grace own sweet repulsion, and that 'tis the quality of their embrace to be like the majestic reach of coupled suns, that, from afar, mingle their mutual spheres, while each circles the twin obsequious star. And, in the warmth of hand to hand, of heart to heart, he'll vow to note and reverently understand how the two spirits shine remote, and ne'er to numb fine honor's nerve, nor let sweet awe in passion melt, nor fail by courtesies to observe the space which makes attraction felt, nor cease to guard like life the sense which tells him that the embrace of love is o'er a gulf of difference. Love cannot sound, nor death remove. This learned I, watching where she danced, native to melody and light, and now and then toward me glanced, pleased, as I hoped, to please my sight. Ah, love to speak was impotent, till music did a tongue confer, and I ne'er knew what music meant, until I danced to it with her, too proud of the sustaining power of my, till then, unblemished joy. My passion, for reproof, that hour, tasted mortality's alloy, and bore me down an eddying gulf. I wished the world might run to wreck, so I but once might fling myself obliviously about her neck. I pressed her hand, by will or chance, I know not, but I saw the rays withdrawn, which did till then enhance her fairness with its thanks for praise. I knew my spirit's vague offense was patent to the dreaming eye, and heavenly tact of innocence, and did for fear my fear defy, and asked her for the next dance. Yes. No, had not fallen with half the force. She was fulfilled with gentleness, and I with measureless remorse. And, ere I slept, on bended knee, I owned myself, with many a tear, unseasonable, disorderly, and a deranger of love's sphere. Gave thanks that, when we stumble and fall, we hurt ourselves, and not the truth. And, rising, found its brightness all the brighter through the tears of ruth. Nor was my hope that night made less, though ordered, humbled, and reproved. Her farewell did her heart express as much, but not with anger, moved. My trouble had my soul betrayed, and, in the night of my despair, my love, a flower of noon afraid, divulged its fullness unaware. I saw she saw, and, oh sweet heaven, could my glad mind have credited that influence had to me been given to affect her so, I should have said that, though she from herself concealed love's felt delight and fancied harm, they made her face the jousting field of joy and beautiful alarm. Canto 12. The Abdication. Preludes. I. The Chase. She wearies with an ill unknown. In sleep she sobs and seems to float, a water lily, all alone, within a lonely castle moat. And as the full moon, spectral, lies within the crescent's gleaming arms, the present shows her heedless eyes a future dim with vague alarms. She sees, and yet she scarcely sees, for, life in life not yet begun, too many are its mysteries for thought to fix on any one. She's told that maidens are by youths extremely honored and desired, and sighs, if those sweet tales be truths, what bliss to be so much admired. The suitors come, she sees them grieve, her coldness fills them with despair. She'd pity if she could believe, she's sorry that she cannot care. But who now meets her on her way? Comes he as enemy or friend? Or both? Her bosom seems to say, he cannot pass, and there an end. Whom does he love? Does he confer his heart on worth that answers his? Or is he come to worship her? She fears, she hopes, she thinks he is advancing stepless, quick, and still. As in the grass a serpent glides, he fascinates her fluttering will, then terrifies with dreadful strides. At first, there's nothing to resist. He fights with all the forms of peace. He comes about her like a mist, with subtle, swift, unseen increase. And then, unlooked for, strikes amain some stroke that frightens her to death, and grows all harmlessness again, ere she can cry, or get her breath. At times she stops, and stands at bay. But he, in all more strong than she, subdues her with his pale dismay, or more admired audacity. She plans some final, fatal blow. But when she means with frowns to kill, he looks as if he loved her so. She smiles to him against her will. How sweetly he implies her praise! His tender talk, his gentle tone, the manly worship in his gaze, they nearly make her heart his own. With what an air he speaks her name! His manner always recollects Her sex, and still the woman's claim, is taught its scope by his respects. Her charms, perceived to prosper first in his beloved advertencies, when in her glass they are rehearsed, prove his most powerful allies. Ah, whither shall a maiden flee, when a bold youth so swift pursues, and siege of tenderest courtesy, with hope perseverant, still renews? Why fly so fast? Her flattered breast thanks him who finds her fair and good. She loves her fears, veiled joys arrest the foolish terrors of her blood. By secret, sweet degrees, her heart, vanquished, takes warmth from his desire. She makes it more, with hidden art, and fuels love's late dreaded fire. The generous credit he accords to all the signs of good in her, redeems itself, his praiseful words. The virtues they impute confer. Her heart is thrice as rich in bliss. She's 3 times gentler than before. He gains a right to call her his. Now she through him is so much more. 'Tis heaven where'er she turns her head. 'Tis music when she talks, 'tis air on which, elate, she seems to tread. The convert of a gladder sphere. Ah, might he, when by doubts aggrieved, behold his tokens next her breast, at all his words and sighs perceived, against its blithe upheaval pressed. But still she flies. Should she be won, it must not be believed or thought. She yields, she's chased to death, undone, surprised, and violently caught. 2. Denied. The storm cloud, whose portentous shade fumes from a core of smothered fire, his livery is whose worshipped maid, denies herself to his desire. Ah, grief that almost crushes life, to lie upon his lonely bed, and fancy her another's wife. His brain is flame, his heart is lead, sinking at last, by nature's course, cloaked round with sleep from his despair. He does but sleep to gather force, that goes to his exhausted care. He wakes renewed for all the smart, his only love, and she is wed. His fondness comes about his heart, as milk comes when the babe is dead. The wretch, whom she found fit for scorn, his own allegiant thoughts despise, and far into the shining morn, lazy with misery he lies. 3. The churl. This marks the churl, when spousals crown his selfish hope, he finds the grace which sweet love has for Evan the clown, was not in the woman, but the chase. The abdication from little signs, like little stars, whose faint impression on the sense, the very looking straight at Mars, or only seen by confluence, from instinct of a mutual thought, whence sanctity of manners flowed, from chance unconscious, and from what concealment, overconscious, showed. Her hands less weight upon my arm, her lowlier mien, that matched with this, I found, and felt with strange alarm. I stood committed to my bliss. I grew assured, before I asked, that she'd be mine without reserve, and in her unclaimed graces basked, at leisure, till the time should serve, with just enough of dread to thrill the hope, and make it trebly dear. Thus loath to speak the word to kill either the hope or happy fear. P. Till once, through lanes returning late, her laughing sisters lagged behind, and, ere we reached her father's gate, we paused with one presentient mind, and, in the dim and perfumed mist, their coming stayed, who, friends to me, and very women, loved to assist love's timid opportunity. Twice rose, twice died my trembling word. The faint and frail cathedral chimes spake time in music, and we heard the chafers rustling in the limes. Her dress, that touched me where I stood, The warmth of her confided arm. Her bosom's gentle neighborhood. Her pleasure in her power to charm. Her look, her love, her form, her touch. The least seemed most by blissful turn. Blissful but that it pleased too much. And taught the wayward soul to yearn. It was as if a harp with wires was traversed by the breath I drew. And, oh, sweet meeting of desires. She, answering, owned that she loved too. Honoria was to be my bride. The hopeless heights of hope were scaled. The summit won, I paused and sighed. As if success itself had failed. It seemed as if my lips approached to touch at Tantalus' reward. And rashly on Eden life encroached. Half blinded by the flaming sword. The whole world's wealthiest and its best. So fiercely sought, appeared when found. Poor in its need to be possessed. Poor from its very want of bound. My queen was crouching at my side. By love unsceptered and brought low. Her awful garb of maiden pride. All melted into tears like snow. The mistress of my reverent thought. Whose praise was all I asked of fame. In my close watched approval sought. Protection as from danger and blame. Her soul, which late I loved to invest. With pity for my poor desert. Buried its face within my breast. Like a pet fawn by hunters hurt. Book 2. The Prologue. Her sons pursue the butterflies. Her baby daughter mocks the doves. With throbbing coo, in his fond eyes. She's Venus with her little loves. Her footfall dignifies the earth. Her form's the native land of grace. And, lo, his coming lights with mirth. Its court and capital her face. Full proud her favor makes her lord. And that her flattered bosom knows. She takes his arm without a word. In lanes of laurel and of rose. 10 years today has she been his. He but begins to understand. He says, the dignity and bliss. She gave him when she gave her hand. She, answering, says, he disenchants. The past, though that was perfect, he rejoins, the present nothing wants. But briefness to be ecstasy. He lands her charms, her beauty's glow. Wins from the spoiler time new rays. Bright looks reply, approving so. Beauty's elixir vitae, praise. Upon a beach he bids her mark. Where, 10 years since, he carved her name. It grows there with the growing bark. And in his heart it grows the same. For that her soft arm presses his. Close to her fond, maternal breast. He tells her, each new kindness is the effectual sum of all the rest. And, whilst the cushat, mocking, cooed, they blessed the days they had been wed. At cost of those in which he wooed. Till everything was 3 times said. And words were growing vain, when Briggs, factotum, footman, butler, groom, who pressed the sitter, fed the pigs, preserved the rabbits, drove the brougham, and helped, at need, to mow the lawns, and sweep the paths and thatch the hay. Here brought the post down, Mrs. Vaughan's sole rival, but, for once, today, scarce looked at, for the 2nd book. Till this 10th festival kept close. Was thus commenced, while o'er them shook the laurel married with the rose. The pulse of war, whose bloody heats sane purposes insanely work. Now with fraternal frenzy beats. And binds the Christian to the Turk. And shrieking fifes. But, with a roar, in rushed the loves. The tallest rolled a hedgehog from his pinafore, which saved his fingers. Baby, bold, touched it, and stared, and screamed for life. And stretched her hand for Vaughan to kiss. Who hugged his pet, and asked his wife, is this for love, or love for this? But she turned pale, for, lo, the beast found stock still in the rabbit trap, and feigning so to be deceased, and laid by Frank upon her lap, unglobed himself, and showed his snout, and fell, scattering the loves amain, with shriek, with laughter, and with shout. And, peace at last restored again, the bard, who this untimely hitch bore with a calm magnanimous, the hedgehog rolled into a ditch, and Venus soothed, proceeded thus. P. 109 Canto I. Accepted. Preludes. I. The Song of Songs. The pulse of war, whose bloody heats sane purposes insanely work, now with fraternal frenzy beats, and binds the Christian to the Turk, and shrieking fifes and braggart flags through quiet England teach our breath, the courage corporate that drags the coward to heroic death. Too late for song. Who henceforth sings must fledge his heavenly flight with more song-worthy and heroic things than hasty, home-destroying war. While might and right are not agreed, and battle thus is yet to wage, so long let laurels be the meed of soldier as of poet sage. But men expect the tale of love, and weary of the tale of hate. Lift me, O Muse, myself above, and let the world no longer wait. 2. The Kites. I saw 3 cupids, so I dreamed, who made 3 kites, on which were drawn, in letters that like roses gleamed, Plato, Anacreon, and Vaughan. The boy who held by Plato tried his airy venture first, all sail it heavenward rushed till scarce descried, then pitched and dropped for want of tail. Anacreon's love, with shouts of mirth, that pride of spirit thus should fall, to his kite linked a lump of earth, and, lo, it would not soar at all. Last, my disciple freighted his with a long streamer made of flowers, the children of the sod, and this rose in the sun, and flew for hours. P. 111-3. Orpheus. The music of the sirens found Ulysses weak, though chords were strong. But happier Orpheus stood unbound, and shamed it with a sweeter song. His mode be mine. Of heaven I ask, may I, with heart-persuading might, pursue the poet's sacred task of superseding faith by sight, till even the witless Gadarene, preferring Christ to swine, shall know that life is sweetest when it's clean. To prouder folly let me show earth by divine light made divine, and let the saints, who hear my word, say, lo, the clouds begin to shine about the coming of the Lord. 4. Nearest the dearest. Till Eve was brought to Adam, he a solitary desert trod, though in the great society of nature, angels, and of God. If one slight column counterweighs the ocean, 'tis the Maker's law, who deems obedience better praise than sacrifice of erring awe. V. Perspective. What seems to us for us is true. The planet has no proper light. And yet, when Venus is in view, no primal star is half so bright. Accepted. What fortune did my heart foretell? What shook my spirit, as I woke? Like the vibration of a bell, of which I had not heard the stroke. Was it some happy vision shut from memory by the sun's fresh ray? Was it that linnet's song, or but a natural gratitude for day? Or the mere joy the senses weave, a wayward ecstasy of life? Then I remembered, yestereve, I won Honoria for my wife. P. Forth riding, while as yet the day was dewy, watching Sarum spire, still beckoning me along my way. And growing every minute higher. I reached the Dean's. One blind was down. Though 9 then struck. My bride-to-be. And had she rested ill, my own. With thinking, oh, my heart, of me. I paced the streets, a pistol chose. To guard my now important life. When riding late from Sarum Close. At noon returned. Good Mrs. Fife. To the Dean, is he at home? Said, no, sir, but Miss Honor is. And straight, not asking if I'd come. Announced me, Mr. Felix, Miss. To Mildred, in the study. There. We talked, she working. We agreed. The day was fine. The fancy fair. Successful, did I ever read? The Genlease? Never. Do. She heard. I was engaged. To whom? Miss Fry. Was it the fact? No. On my word. What scandal people talked. Would I hold out this skein of silk? So past. I knew not how much time away. How were her sisters? Well. At last. I summoned heart enough to say. I hope to have seen Miss Churchill too. Miss Churchill, Felix. What is this? I said, and now I find 'tis true. Last night you quarrelled. Here she is. She came, and seemed a morning rose. When ruffling rain has paled its blush. Her crown once more was on her brows. And, with a faint, indignant flush. And fainter smile, she gave her hand. But not her eyes, then sate apart. As if to make me understand. The honor of her vanquished heart. But I drew humbly to her side. And she, well pleased, perceiving me. Liege ever to the noble pride. Of her unconquered majesty. Once and for all put it away. The faint flush passed. And, thereupon. Her loveliness, which rather lay in light than color, smiled and shone. Till sick was all my soul with bliss. Or was it with remorse and ire? Of such a sanctity as this. Subdued by love to my desire. P. 116 Canto 2. The course of true love. Preludes. I. The changed allegiance. Watch how a bird, that captive sings. The cage set open, first looks out. Yet fears the freedom of his wings. And now withdraws, and flits about. And now looks forth again. Until, grown bold, he hops on stool and chair. And now attains the window-sill. And now confides himself to air. The maiden so, from love's free sky. In chaste and prudent counsels caged. But longing to be loosened by. Her suitor's faith declared engaged. When blessed with that release desired. First doubts if truly she is free. Then pauses. Restlessly retired. Alarmed at too much liberty. But soon, remembering all her debt. To plighted passion, gets by rote. Her duty, says, I love him, yet. The thought half chokes her in her throat. And, like that fatal, I am thine. Comes with alternate gush and check. And joltings of the heart, as wine. Poured from a flask of narrow neck. Is he indeed her choice? She fears. Her yes was rashly said, and shame. Remorse and ineffectual tears. Revolt from his conceded claim. Oh, treason! So, with desperate nerve. She cries, I am in love, am his. Let's run the cables of reserve. And floats into a sea of bliss. And laughs to think of her alarm. Avows she was in love before. Though his avowal was the charm. Which opened to her own the door. She loves him for his mastering air. Whence, Parthian-like, she slaying flies. His flattering look, which seems to wear her loveliness in manly eyes. His smile, which, by reverse, portends an awful wrath, should reason stir. How fortunate it is they're friends! And he will ne'er be wroth with her. His power to do or guard from harm, if he but chose to use it half, and catch her up in one strong arm, what could she do but weep, or laugh? His words, which still instruct, but so that this applause seems still implied. How wise in all she ought to know, how ignorant of all beside. His skilful suit, which leaves her free, gives nothing for the world to name, and keeps her conscience safe, while he, with half the bliss, takes all the blame. His clear repute with great and small, the jealousy his choice will stir. But 10 times more than 10 times all, she loves him for his love of her. How happy 'tis he seems to see in her that utter loveliness, which she, for his sake, longs to be. At times, she cannot but confess, her other friends are somewhat blind. Her parents' years excuse neglect, but all the rest are scarcely kind. And brothers grossly want respect. And oft she views what he admires within her glass, and sight of this makes all the sum of her desires to be devotion unto his. But still, at first, whatever's done, a touch, her hand pressed lightly, she stands dizzied, shocked, and flushed, like one set sudden neck deep in the sea. And, though her bond for endless time to his good pleasure gives her o'er, the slightest favor seems a crime, because it makes her love him more. But that she ne'er will let him know, for what were love should reverence cease. A thought which makes her reason so inscrutable, it seems caprice. With her, as with a desperate town, too weak to stand, too proud to treat. The conqueror, though the walls are down, has still to capture street by street. But, after that, habitual faith, divorced from self, where late 'twas due, walks nobly in its novel path, and she's to changed allegiance true, and prizing what she can't prevent. Right wisdom, often misdeemed whim, her will's indomitably bent on mere submissiveness to him. To him she'll cleave, for him forsake fathers and mothers' fond command. He is her lord, for he can take hold of her faint heart with his hand. P. 122. Beauty. Beauty deludes. O shaft well shot, to strike the mark's true opposite. That ugly good is scorned proves not. 'Tis beauty lies, but lack of it. By heaven's law the Jew might take a slave to wife, if she was fair. So strong a plea does beauty make, that, where 'tis seen, discretion's there. If, by a monstrous chance, we learn that this illustrious vaunts a lie, our minds, by which the eyes discern, see hideous contrariety, and laugh at nature's wanton mood, which, thus a swinish thing to flout, though haply in its gross way good, hangs such a jewel in its snout. 3. Lays and Lucretia. Did first his beauty wake her sighs? That's Lays. Thus Lucretia's known. The beauty in her lover's eyes was admiration of her own. The course of true love. Oh, beating heart of sweet alarm, which stays the lover's step, when near his mistress and her awful charm of grace and innocence sincere. I held the half-shut door, and heard the voice of my betrothed wife, who sang my verses, every word by music taught its latent life, with interludes of well-touched notes that flashed, surprising and serene, As meteor after meteor floats. The soft, autumnal stars between. There was a passion in her tone. A tremor when she touched the keys. Which told me she was there alone. And uttering all her soul at ease. I entered, for I did not choose. To learn how in her heart I throve. By chance or stealth. Beyond her use. Her greeting flattered me with love. With true love's treacherous confidence. And ire, at last to laughter won. She spoke this speech, and marked its sense. By action, as her aunt had done. P. You, with your looks and catching air. To think of Vaughan. You fool. You know. You might, with ordinary care. Even yet be Lady Clitheroe. You're sure he'll do great things some day. Nonsense, he won't, he's dressed too well. Dines with the Sterling Club, they say. Not commonly respectable. Half Puritan, half Cavalier. His curly hair I think's a wig. And, for his fortune, why my dear. 'Tis not enough to keep a gig. Rich aunts and uncles never die. And what you bring won't do for dress. And so you'll live on by and by. Within oaten cake and watercress. I cried, but did not let her see. At last she softened her dispraise. On learning you had bought for me. A carriage and a pair of bays. But here she comes. You take her in. To dinner. I impose this task. Make her approve my love. And win. What thanks from me you choose to ask. P. My niece has told you every word. I said of you. What may I mean? Of course she has, but you've not heard. How I abused you to the Dean. Yes, I'll take wine, he's mad, like her. And she will have you, there it ends. And, now I've done my duty, sir. And you've shown common sense, we're friends. Go, child, and see him out yourself. Aunt Maud said, after tea, and show. The place, upon that upper shelf. Where Petrarch stands, lent long ago. These rose leaves to my heart be pressed. Honoria, while it aches for you. The rose in ruin, from her breast. Fell, as I took a fond adieu. You must go now, love. See, the air is thick with starlight. Let me tie this scarf on. Oh, your Petrarch. There. I'm coming, aunt. Sweet, sweet. Goodbye. Ah, love, to me 'tis death to part. Yet you, my severed life, smile on. These, good nights, Felix, break my heart. I'm only gay till you are gone. With love's bright arrows from her eyes. And balm on her permissive lips. She passed, and night was a surprise. As when the sun at Quito dips. Her beauties were like sunlit snows. Flushed but not warmed with my desire. Oh, how I loved her. Fiercely glows. In the pure air of frost the fire. Who for a year is sure of fate. I thought, disheartened as I went. Wroth with the Dean, who bade me wait. And vexed with her, who seemed content. Nay, could eternal life afford. That tyranny should thus deduct. From this fair land, which called me lord. A year of the sweet usufruct. It might not and it should not be. I'd go back now, and he must own. At once, my love's compulsive plea. I turned, I found the Dean alone. Nonsense, my friend, go back to bed. It's 12:30. July, then, sir. Well, come tomorrow, at last he said. And you may talk of it with her. A light gleamed as I passed the stair. A pausing foot, a flash of dress. And a sweet voice. Is Felix there? July, love. Says Papa so? Yes. P. 126 Canto 3. The Country Ball. Preludes. I. Love ceremonious. Keep your undressed, familiar style. For strangers, but respect your friend. Her most, whose matrimonial smile is and asks honor without end. 'Tis found, and needs it must so be, that life from love's allegiance flags, when love forgets his majesty in sloth's unceremonious rags. Let love make home a gracious court. There let the world's rude, hasty ways be fashioned to a loftier port, and learn to bow and stand at gaze. And let the sweet respective sphere of personal worship there obtain circumference for moving clear, none treading on another's train. This makes that pleasures do not cloy, and dignifies our mortal strife with calmness and considerate joy, befitting our immortal life. 2. The Rainbow. A stately rainbow came and stood, when I was young, in Highhurst Park. Its bright feet lit the hill and wood beyond, and cloud and sward were dark. And I, who thought the splendor ours, because the place was, towards it flew. And there, amidst the glittering showers, gazed vainly for the glorious view. With whatsoever's lovely, no, it is not ours, stand off to see. Or beauty's apparition so puts on invisibility. 3. A Paradox. To tryst love blindfold goes, for fear he should not see, an eyeless night. He chooses still for breathing near beauty, that lives but in the sight. The County Ball. Well, heaven be thanked my first love failed, as, heaven be thanked, our first loves do. Thought I, when Fanny past me sailed. Loved once, for what I never knew, unless for coloring in her talk, when cheeks and merry mouth would show 3 roses on a single stalk, the middle wanting room to blow, and forward ways that charmed the boy, whose love-sick mind, misreading fate, scarce hoped that any queen of joy could ever stoop to be his mate. But there danced she, who from the leaven of ill preserved my heart and wit, all unawares, for she was heaven, others at best but fit for it. One of those lovely things she was, in whose least action there can be nothing so transient but it has an air of immortality. I marked her step, with peace elate, her brow more beautiful than morn, her sometime look of girlish state, which sweetly waved its right to scorn. The giddy crowd, she grave the while, although, as 'twere beyond her will, around her mouth the baby smile, that she was born with lingered still. Her ball dress seemed a breathing mist, from the fair form exhaled and shed, raised in the dance with arm and wrist, all warmth and light, unbraceleted. Her motion, feeling 'twas beloved, the pensive soul of tune expressed. And, oh, what perfume, as she moved, came from the flowers in her breast. How sweet a tongue the music had. Beautiful girl, it seemed to say, though all the world were vile and sad, dance on, let innocence be gay. Ah, none but I discerned her looks, when in the throng she passed me by. For love is like a ghost, and brooks only the chosen seer's eye. And who but she could e'er divine the halo and the happy trance, when her bright arm reposed on mine, in all the pauses of the dance. P. Whilst so her beauty fed my sight, and whilst I lived in what she said, accordant airs, like all delight, most sweet when noted least, were played. And was it like the Pharisee, if I in secret bowed my face, with joyful thanks that I should be, not as were many, but with grace, and fortune of well-nurtured youth, and days no sordid pains defile, And thoughts accustomed to the truth. Made capable of her fair smile. Charles Barton followed down the stair. To talk with me about the ball. And carp at all the people there. The Chichels chiefly stirred his gall. Such were the Kriemhilds and Isenda. You stormed about at Trinity. Nothing at heart but handsome blondes. Folk say that you and Fanny Fry. They err. Good night. Here lies my course. Through Wilton. Silence blessed my ears. And, weak at heart with vague remorse. A passing poignancy of tears. Attacked mine eyes. By pale and park. I rode, and ever seemed to see. In the transparent starry dark. That splendid brow of chastity. That soft and yet subduing light. At which, as at the sudden moon. I held my breath, and thought, how bright. That guileless beauty in its noon. Compelling tribute of desires. Ardent as day when Sirius reigns. Pure as the permeating fires. That smolder in the opal's veins. P. 132 Canto 4. Love in idleness. Preludes. I. Honor and desert. O Queen, awake to thy renown. Require what 'tis our wealth to give. And comprehend and wear the crown. Of thy despised prerogative. I, who in manhood's name at length. With glad songs come to abdicate. The gross regality of strength. Must yet in this thy praise abate. That, through thine erring humbleness. And disregard of thy degree. Mainly. Has man been so much less. Than fits his fellowship with thee. High thoughts had shaped the foolish brow. The coward had grasped the hero's sword. The vilest had been great, hadst thou. Just to thyself, been worth's reward. But lofty honors undersold. Seller and buyer both disgrace. And favors that make folly bold. Banish the light from virtue's face. 2. Love and honor. What man with baseness so content? Or sick with false conceit of right? As not to know that the element. And inmost warmth of love's delight. Is honor? Who'd not rather kiss? A duchess than a milkmaid, prank. The two in equal grace, which is. Precedent nature's obvious rank. Much rather, than, a woman decked. With saintly honors, chaste and good. Whose thoughts celestial things affect. Whose eyes express her heavenly mood. Those lesser vaunts are dimmed or lost. Which plume her name or paint her lip. Extinct in the deep glowing boast. Of her angelic fellowship. P. 134-3. Valor misdirected. I'll hunt for dangers north and south. To prove my love, which sloth maligns. What seems to say her rosy mouth? I'm not convinced by proofs but signs. Love in idleness. What should I do? In such a wife. Fortune had lavished all her store. And nothing now seemed left for life. But to deserve her more and more. To this I vowed my life's whole scope. And love said, I forewarn you now. The maiden will fulfill your hope. Only as you fulfill your vow. A promised service, task for days. Was done this morning while she slept. With that full heart which thinks no praise. Of vows which are not more than kept. But loftier work did love impose. And studious hours. Alas, for these. While she from all my thoughts arose. Like Venus from the restless seas. I conned a scheme, within mind elate. My uncle's land would fall to me. My skill was much in school debate. My friends were strong in Salisbury. A place in Parliament once gained. Through saps first labored out of sight. Far loftier peaks were then attained. With easy leaps from height to height. And that o'erwhelming honor paid. Or recognized, at least, in life, which this most sweet and noble maid should yield to him who called her wife. I fixed this rule, in Sarum Close, to make 2 visits every week. The first, today. And, save on those, I not would do, think, read, or speak, which did not help my settled will to earn the statesman's proud applause. And now, forthwith, to mend my skill in ethics, politics, and laws. The statesman's learning, flushed with power and pride of freshly formed resolve, I read Helvetius half an hour. But, halting in attempts to solve, why, more than all things else that be, a lady's grace hath force to move that sensitive appetency of intellectual good, called love, took Blackstone down, only to draw my swift deriving thoughts ere long to love, which is the source of law, and, like a king, can do no wrong. Then opened Hyde, where loyal hearts, with faith unpropped by precedent, began to play rebellious parts. Oh, mighty stir that little meant! How dull the crude, ploughed fields of fact! To me who trod the Elysian grove, how idle all heroic act! By the least suffering of love, I could not read, so took my pen, and thus commenced, in form of notes, a lecture for the Salisbury men, with due regard to Tory votes. A road's a road, though worn to ruts. They speed who travel straight therein. But he who tacks and tries short cuts gets fool's praise and a broken shin. And here I stopped in sheer despair. But, what today was thus begun, I vowed, upstarting from my chair, tomorrow should indeed be done. So loosed my chafing thoughts from school, to play with fancy as they chose. And then, according to my rule, I dressed, and came to Sarum Close. Ah, that sweet laugh! Diviner sense! Did nature, forming her, inspire to omit the grosser elements, and make her all of air and fire? Tomorrow, Cowes Regatta fell. The Dean would like his girls to go. If I went too, most gladly. Well, I did but break a foolish vow. Unless love's toil has love for prize, and then he's Hercules, above all other contrarieties. Is labor contrary to love? No fault of love's, but nature's laws. And love, in idleness, lies quick. For as the worm whose powers make pause and swoon, through alteration sick, the soul, its wingless state dissolved, awaits its nuptial life complete, all indolently self-convolved, cocooned in silken fancies sweet. P. 139 Canto V. The Queen's Room. Preludes. I. Rejected. Perhaps she's dancing somewhere now. The thoughts of light and music wake. Sharp jealousies, that grow and grow, till silence and the darkness ache. He sees her step, so proud and gay, which, ere he spake, foretold despair. Thus did she look, on such a day, and such the fashion of her hair. And thus she stood, when, kneeling low, he took the bramble from her dress. And thus she laughed and talked, whose no was sweeter than another's yes. He feeds on thoughts that most deject. He impudently feigns her charms, so reverenced in his own respect, dreadfully clasped by other arms, and turns, and puts his brows, that ache, against the pillow where 'tis cold. If only now his heart would break. But, oh, how much a heart can hold. 2. Rachel. You loved her, and would lie all night, thinking how beautiful she was, and what to do for her delight. Now both are bound with alien laws. Be patient, put your heart to school. Weep if you will, but not despair. The trust that naught goes wrong by rule should ease this load the many bear. Love, if there's heaven, shall meet his dues, though here unmatched, or matched amiss. Meanwhile, the gentle cannot choose, but learn to love the lips they kiss. Ne'er hurt the homely sister's ears with Rachel's beauties, secret be the lofty mind whose lonely tears protest against mortality. P. 141:3. The heart's prophecies. Be not amazed at life, 'tis still the mode of God with his elect, their hopes exactly to fulfill, in times and ways they least expect. The Queen's Room. There's nothing happier than the days in which young love makes every thought pure as a bride's blush, when she says, I will unto she knows not what. And lovers, on the love-lit globe, for love's sweet sake, walk yet aloof, and hear time weave the marriage robe, attraction warp and reverence woof. My housekeeper, my nurse of yore, cried, as the latest carriage went, well, Mr. Felix, sir, I'm sure the morning's gone off excellent. I never saw the show to pass. The ladies, in their fine fresh gowns, so sweetly dancing on the grass, to music with its ups and downs. We'd such work, sir, to clean the plate. 'Twas just the busy times of old. The Queen's room, sir, looked quite like state. Miss Smythe, when she went up, made bold to peep into the rose boudoir, and cried, how charming! All quite new, and wondered who it could be for. All but Miss Honor looked in too, but she's too proud to peep and pry. None's like that sweet Miss Honor, sir. Excuse my humbleness, but I pray heave and you'll get a wife like her. The poor love dear Miss Honor's ways better than money. Mrs. Rouse, who ought to know a lady, says no finer goes to Wilton House. Miss Bagshaw thought that dreary room had killed old Mrs. Vaughan with fright. She would not sleep in such a tomb, for all her host was worth a night. Miss Fry, sir, laughed, they talked the rest in French, and French sirs Greek to me. But, though they smiled, and seemed to jest, no love was lost, for I could see how serious like Miss Honor was. Well, nurse, this is not my affair. The ladies talked in French with cause. Good day, and thank you for your prayer. I loitered through the vacant house, soon to be hers, in one room stayed. Of old my mother's, here my vows of endless thanks were oftenest paid. This room its first condition kept, for, on her road to Sarum town, therein an English queen had slept. Before the hearse was half pulled down, the pictured walls the place became. Here ran the brook Honoris, where stout Jason bore the wrinkled dame, whom serving changed to Juno, there Ixion's selfish hope, instead of the nuptial goddess, clasped a cloud. And, here, translated Psyche fed her gaze on love, not disallowed. And in this chamber had she been, and into that she would not look. My joy, my vanity, my queen, at whose dear name my pulses shook. To others how express it all? My worship in that joyful shrine, I scarcely can myself recall. What peace and ardor then were mine, and how more sweet than aught below. The daylight and its duties done, it felt to fold the hands, and so relinquish all regards but one, to see her features in the dark, to lie and meditate once more. The grace I did not fully mark, the tone I had not heard before, and from my pillow then to take her notes, her picture, and her glove, put there for joy when I should wake, and press them to the heart of love, and then to whisper, wife, And pray. To live so long as not to miss that unimaginable day, which farther seems the nearer 'tis. And still from joy's unfathomed well, to drink, in dreams, while on her brows of innocence ineffable blossom the laughing bridal rose. p. 145 Canto 6. The Love Letters. Preludes. I. Love's perversity. How strange a thing a lover seems to animals that do not love. Lo, where he walks and talks in dreams, and flouts us with his lady's glove. How foreign is the garb he wears, and how his great devotion mocks our poor propriety, and scares the undevout with paradox. His soul, through scorn of worldly care, and great extremes of sweet and gall, and musing much on all that's fair, grows witty and fantastical. He sobs his joy and sings his grief, and evermore finds such delight in simply picturing his relief, that plaining seems to cure his plight. He makes his sorrow, when there's none. His fancy blows both cold and hot, next to the wish that she'll be won. His first hope is that she may not. He sues, yet deprecates consent. Would she be captured she must fly. She looks too happy and content, for whose least pleasure he would die. Oh, cruelty, she cannot care for one to whom she's always kind. He says he's not, but, oh, despair, if he's not Jove to her fond mind. He's jealous if she pets a dove. She must be his with all her soul. Yet 'tis a postulate in love. That part is greater than the whole, and all his apprehensions stress. When he's with her, regards her hair, her hand, a ribbon of her dress, as if his life were only there. Because she's constant, he will change, and kindest glances coldly meet. And, all the time he seems so strange. His soul is fawning at her feet. Of smiles and simple heaven grown tired, he wickedly provokes her tears. And when she weeps, as he desired, falls slain with ecstasies of fears, he blames her, though she has no fault, except the folly to be his. He worships her, the more to exalt the profanation of a kiss. Health's his disease, he's never well. But when his paleness shames her rose, his faith's a rock-built citadel, its sign a flag that each way blows. His o'erved fancy frets and fumes, and love, in him, is fierce, like hate, and ruffles his ambrosial plumes against the bars of time and fate. 2. The power of love. Samson the mighty, Solomon the wise, and holy David all must doff their crowns to love, for none but fell as love would scorn to fall. And what may fallen spirits win, when stripes and precepts cannot move? Only the sadness of all sin, when looked at in the light of love. The Love Letters. You ask, will admiration halt? Should spots appear within my sun? Oh, how I wish I knew your fault, for love's tired gaze to rest upon. Your graces, which have made me great, will I so loftily admire. Yourself shall emulate, and be yourself your own desire. I'll nobly mirror you too fair, and, when you're false to me your glass, what's wanting you'll by that repair. So bring yourself through me to pass. Oh dearest, tell me how to prove goodwill which cannot be expressed. The beneficial heart of love is labor in an idle breast. Name in the world your chosen part, and here I vow, with all the bent and application of my heart, to give myself to your content. Would you live on, home worshipped, thus? Not proudly high nor poorly low. Indeed the lines are fallen to us in pleasant places. Be it so. But would you others heave moored move? By sight not faith, while you they admire? I'll help with zeal as I approve that just and merciful desire. High as the lonely moon to view, I'll lift your light, do you decree? Your place, I'll win it, for from you command inspires capacity. Or, unseen, would you sway the world? More surely. Then in gracious rhyme, I'll raise your emblem, fair unfurled, with blessing in the breeze of time. Faith removes mountains, much more love. Let your contempt abolish me. If aught of your devisal prove too hard or high to do or be, I ended. From your sweetheart, sir, said nurse, the dean's man brings it down. I could have kissed both him and her. Nurse, give him that, with half a crown. How beat my heart, how paused my breath, when, with perversely fond delay, I broke the seal, that bore a wreath of roses linked with one of bay. I found your note. How very kind. To leave it there. I cannot tell how pleased I was, or how you find words to express your thoughts so well. The girls are going to the ball at Wilton. If you can, do come. And any day this week you call. Papa and I shall be at home. You said to Mary once, I hope, in jest, that women should be vain. On Saturday your friend, her Pope, the bishop dined with us again. She put the question, if they ought. He turned it cleverly away. For giddy Mildred cried, she thought, we must, with what we must we may. Dear Papa laughed, and said, 'twas sad to think how vain his girls would be. Above all Mary, now she had episcopal authority. But I was very dull, dear friend, and went upstairs at last, and cried, be sure to come today, or send a rose leaf kissed on either side. Adieu. I am not well. Last night my dreams were wild, I often woke. The summer lightning was so bright, and when it flashed I thought you spoke. P. 152 Canto 7. The Revulsion. Preludes. I. Joy and use cannot compared with wedlock be for use. But he who made the heart to use proportions joy. What he has joined let no man put apart. Sweet order has its draught of bliss, graced with the pearl of God's consent. 10 times delightful in that 'tis considerate and innocent. In vain disorder grasps the cup, the pleasure's not enjoyed but spilt. And, if he stoops to lick it up, it only tastes of earth and guilt. His sorry raptures rest destroys. To live, like comets, they must roam. On settled poles turn solid joys, and sun-like pleasures shine at home. P. 153-2. She was mine. Thy tears o'erprize thy loss. Thy wife. In what was she particular? Others of comely face and life. Others as chaste and warm there are. And when they speak they seem to sing. Beyond her sex she was not wise. And there is no more common thing than kindness in a woman's eyes. Then wherefore weep so long and fast? Why so exceedingly repine? Say, how has thy beloved surpassed so much all others? She was mine. The Revulsion. 'Twas when the spousal time of May hangs all the hedge with bridal wreaths, and airs so sweet the bosom gay. Give thanks for every breath it breathes, when like to like is gladly moved, and each thing joins in spring's refrain. Let those love now who never loved. Let those who have loved love again. That I, in whom the sweet time wrought, lay stretched within a lonely glade, abandoned to delicious thought. beneath the softly twinkling shade. The leaves, all stirring, mimicked well a neighboring rush of rivers cold. And, as the sun or shadow fell, so these were green and those were gold. In dim recesses hyacinths drooped, and breadths of primrose lit the air, which, wandering through the woodland, stooped, and gathered perfumes here and there. Upon the spray the squirrel swung, and careless songsters, 6 or 7, sang lofty songs the leaves among, fit for their only listener, heaven. Eyesight, immeasurable bliss, gains nothing by becoming more. Millions have meaning, after this. Ciphers forget the integer. And so I mused, till musing brought a dream that shook my house of clay. And, in my humbled heart, I thought, to me there yet may come a day, with this the single vestige seen, of comfort, earthly or divine. My sorrow sometime must have been her portion, had it not been mine. Then I, who knew, from watching life, that blows foreseen are slow to fall, rehearsed the losing of a wife, and faced its terrors each and all. The self-chastising fancy showed the coffin with its ghastly breath, the innocent sweet face that owed none of its innocence to death, the lips that used to laugh, the knell that bade the world beware of mirth, the heartless and intolerable indignity of earth to earth. At morn remembering by degrees that she I dreamed about was dead, love's still recurrent jubilees, the days that she was born, one, wed, the duties of my life the same, their meaning for the feelings gone, friendship impertinent, and fame disgusting, and, more harrowing none. Small household troubles fall in to me, as, what time would I dine today? And, oh, how could I bear to see the noisy children at their play? Besides, were all things limp and halt, could I go straight, should I alone have kept my love without default, pitched at the true and heavenly tone, the festal day might come to mind, that missed the gift which more endears, the hour which might have been more kind, and now less fertile in vain tears, the good of common intercourse, for daintier pleasures, then despised, now with what passionate remorse, what poignancy of hunger prized, the little wrong, now greatly rude, which no repentance now could right, and love, in disbelieving mood, deserting his celestial height, with all to know, God's love sent grief, to make me less the world's, and more meek-hearted. Ah, the sick relief! Why bowed I not my heart before? What, I exclaimed, with chill alarm, if this fantastic horror shows the feature of an actual harm, and, coming straight to Sarum close, as one who dreams his wife is dead, and cannot in his slumber weep, and moans upon his wretched bed, and wakes, and finds her there asleep, and laughs and sighs, so I, not less relieved, beheld, with blissful start, the light and happy loveliness, which lay so heavy on my heart. P. 158 Canto 8. The Koh-i-Noor. Preludes. I. In love. If he's capricious she'll be so. But, if his duties constant are, she lets her loving favor glow, as steady as a tropic star. Appears there naught for which to weep. She'll weep for naught, for his dear sake. She clasps her sister in her sleep. Her love in dreams is most awake. Her soul, that once with pleasure shook, did any eyes her beauty own, now wonders how they dare to look on what belongs to him alone. The indignity of taking gifts exhilarates her loving breast. A rapture of submission lifts her life into celestial rest. There's nothing left of what she was. Back to the babe the woman dies. And all the wisdom that she has is to love him for being wise. She's confident because she fears. And, though discreet when he's away, if none but her dear despot hears, she prattles like a child at play. Perchance, when all her praise is said, he tells the news, a battle won. On either side 10,000 dead. Alas! She says, but, if 'twere known. She thinks, he's looking on my face. I am his joy, whatever I do. He sees such time-contenting grace. In that, he'd have me always so. And, evermore, for either's sake. To the sweet folly of the dove, she joins the cunning of the snake. To rivet and exalt his love. Her mode of candor is deceit. And what she thinks from what she'll say, although I'll never call her cheat, lies far as Scotland from Cathay. Without his knowledge he was one. Against his nature kept devout. She'll never tell him how 'twas done. And he will never find it out. If, sudden, he suspects her wiles, and hears her forging chain and trap, and looks, she sits in simple smiles, her 2 hands lying in her lap. Her secret, privilege of the bard, whose fancy is of either sex, is mine, but let the darkness guard. Mysteries that light would more perplex. 2. Love thinking. What lifts her in my thought so far? Beyond all else. Let love not err. 'Tis that which all right women are. But which I'll know in none but her. She is to me the only ark of that high mystery which locks the lips of joy, or speaks in dark enigmas and in paradox. That potent charm, which none can fly, nor would, which makes me bond and free. Nor can I tell if first 'twas I chose it, or it elected me. Which, when I look intentest, lo, cheats most mine eyes, albeit my heart, content to feel and not to know, perceives it all in every part. I kiss its cheek, its life divine exhales from its resplendent shroud. Ixion's fate reversed is mine. Authentic Juno seems a cloud. I feel a blessed warmth, I see a bright circumference of rays. But darkness, where the sun should be, fills admiration with amaze. And when, for joy's relief, I think to fathom with the line of thought the well from which I, blissful, drink, the springs so deep I come to naught. 3. The kiss. I saw you take his kiss. 'Tis true. Oh, modesty! 'Twas strictly kept. He thought me asleep, at least, I knew. He thought I slept. The Kohinoor be man's hard virtues highly wrought. But let my gentle mistress be, in every look, word, deed, and thought, nothing but sweet and womanly. Her virtues please my virtuous mood. But what at all times I admire is, not that she is wise or good, but just the thing which I desire. With versatility to sing the theme of love to any strain. If oftnest she is anything, be it careless, talkative, and vain, that seems in her supremest grace. Which, virtue or not, apprises me, that my familiar thoughts embrace unfathomable mystery. I answered thus, for she desired to know what mind I most approved. Partly to learn what she inquired, partly to get the praise she loved. I praised her, but no praise could fill the depths of her desire to please, though dull to others as a will. To them that have no legacies, the more I praised the more she shone. Her eyes incredulously bright, and all her happy beauty blown beneath the beams of my delight. Sweet rivalry was thus begot. By turns, my speech, in passioned style, with flatteries the truth o'ershot. And she surpassed them with her smile. You have my heart so sweetly seized. And I confess, nay, 'tis my pride, that I'm with you so solely pleased, that, if I'm pleased with aught beside, as music, or the month of June, my friend's devotion, or his wit, a rose, a rainbow, or the moon, it is that you illustrate it. All these are parts, you are the whole. You fit the taste for paradise, to which your charms draw up the soul, as turning spirals draw the eyes. Nature to you was more than kind. 'Twas fond perversity to dress so much simplicity of mind in such a pomp of loveliness. But, praising you, the fancy deft flies wide, and lets the quarry stray. And, when all's said, there's something left. And that's the thing I meant to say. Dear Felix. Sweet, my love. But there was Aunt Maud's noisy ring and knock. Stay, Felix, you have caught my hair. Stoop. Thank you. May I have that lock? Not now. Good morning, Aunt. Why, Puss. You look magnificent today. Here's Felix, Aunt. Fox and green goose. Who handsome gets should handsome pay. Aunt, you are friends. Ah, to be sure. Good morning. Go on flattering, sir. A woman, like the Kohinoor, mounts to the price that's put on her. P. 165 Canto 9. The Friends. Preludes. I. The nursling of civility. Lo, how the woman once was wooed. Forth leapt the savage from his lair, and felled her, and to nuptials rude he dragged her, bleeding, by the hair. From that to Chloe's dainty wiles, and Portia's dignified consent. What distance? Bat these pagan styles. How far below time's fair intent. Siegfried sued Kriemhild. Sweeter life. Could love self-covet? Yet 'tis snug. In what rough sort he chid his wife, for want of curb upon her tongue. Shall love, where last I leave him, halt? Nay, none can fancy or foresee to how strange bliss may time exalt this nursling of civility. P. 166-2. The foreign land. A woman is a foreign land, of which, though there he settle young, a man will ne'er quite understand the customs, politics, and tongue. The foolish hie them post-haste through. See fashions odd, and prospects fair. Learn of the language, how ye do. And go and brag they have been there. The most for leave to trade apply. For once, at empire's seat, her heart. Then get what knowledge ear and eye glean chancewise in the lifelong mart. And certain others, few and fit, attach them to the court, and see the country's best, its accent hit, and partly sound its polity. 3. Disappointment. The bliss which woman's charms bespeak. I've sought in many, found in none. In many, 'tis in vain you seek what only can be found in one. The Friends. Frank's long, dull letter, lying by the gay sash from Honoria's waist, reproached me, passion spared a sigh, for friendship without fault disgraced. How should I greet him? How pretend? I felt the love he once inspired. Time was when either, in his friend, his own deserts with joy admired. We took one side in school debate. Like hopes pursued with equal thirst, were even bracketed by fate. Twin wranglers, seventh from the first. And either loved a lady's laugh more than all music. He and I were perfect in the pleasant half of universal charity. From pride of likeness thus I loved him, and he me, till love begot The lowliness which now approved. Nothing but that which I was not. Blessed was the pride of feeling so. Subjected to a girl's soft reign. She was my vanity, and, oh, all other vanities how vain. Frank followed in his letter's track. And set my guilty heart at ease. By echoing my excuses back. With just the same apologies. So he had slighted me as well. Nor was my mind disburthened less. When what I sought excuse to tell. He of himself did first confess. Each, rapturous, praised his lady's worth. He eloquently thus, her face is the summed sweetness of the earth. Her soul the glass of heaven's grace. To which she leads me by the hand. Or, briefly all the truth to say. To you, who briefly understand. She is both heaven and the way. Displeasures and resentments pass. Athwart her charitable eyes. More fleetingly than breath from glass. Or truth from foolish memories. Her heart so touched with others' woes. She has no need of chastisement. Her gentle life's conditions close. Like God's commandments, with content. And make an aspect calm and gay. Where sweet affections come and go. Till all who see her, smile and say. How fair, and happy that she's so. She is so lovely, true, and pure. Her virtue so endears. That often, when I think of her. Life's meanness fills mine eyes with tears. You paint Miss Churchill. Pray go on. She's perfect, and, if joy was much. To think her nature's paragon. 'Tis more that there's another such. Praising and paying back their praise. With rapturous hearts, toward Sarum spire. We walked, in evening's golden haze. Friendship from passion stealing fire. In joy's crown danced the feather jest. And, parting by the deanery door. Clasped hands, less shy than words, confessed. We had not been true friends before. P. 170 Canto X. The Epitaph. Preludes. I. Frost in Harvest. The lover who, across a gulf of ceremony, views his love. And dares not yet address herself. Pays worship to her stolen glove. The gulf o'erly apt, the lover wed. It happens oft, let truth be told. The halo leaves the sacred head. Respect grows lax, and worship cold. And all love's May-Day promising. Like song of birds before they pair. Or flush of flowers in boastful spring. Dies out, and leaves the summer bare. Yet should a man, it seems to me, honor what honorable is. For some more honorable plea. Than only that it is not his. The gentle wife, who decks his board. And makes his day to have no night. Whose wishes wait upon her lord. Who finds her own in his delight. Is she another now than she? Who, mistress of her maiden charms. At his wild prayer. Incredibly. Committed them to his proud arms. Unless her choice of him's a slur. Which makes her proper credit dim. He never enough can honor her. Who past all speech has honored him. 2. Felicity. To marry her and take her home. The poet, painting pureness, tells. Of lilies. Figures power by Rome. And each thing shows by something else. But through the songs of poets look. And who's so lucky to have found. In universal nature's book. A likeness for a life so crowned. Here they speak best who best express. Their inability to speak. And none are strong, but who confess. With happy skill that they are weak. P. 172-3. Marriage indissoluble. In heaven none marry. Grant the most. Which may by this dark word be meant. Who shall forbid the eternal boast? I kissed, and kissed with her consent. If here, to love, past favor is a present boast, delight, and chain. What lacks of honor, bond, and bliss? Where now and then are no more twain. The Epitaph. At church, in 12 hours more, we meet. This, dearest, is our last farewell. Oh, Felix, do you love me? Sweet. Why do you ask? I cannot tell. And was it no vain fantasy that raised me from the earth with pride? Should I tomorrow verily be bridegroom and Honoria bride? Should I, in simple fact, henceforth live unconditionally lord of her whose smile for brightest worth seemed all too bountiful reward? Incredible life's promise seemed, or, credible, for life too great. Love his own deity blasphemed, and doffed at last his heavenly state. What law, if man could mount so high, to further insolence set bars, and kept the chaste moon in the sky, and bade him not tread out the stars? Patience and hope had parted truce, and, sunlike, love obscured his ray, with dazzling mists, driven up profuse, before his own triumphant way. I thought with prayer how Jacob paid the patient price of Rachel. Them. Of that calm grace Tobias said, and Sarah's innocent Amen. Without avail. O'erwhelming wealth. The wondrous gift of God so near, which should have been delight and health, made heart and spirit sick and sear, until at last the soul of love, that recks not of its own delight, awoke and bade the mists remove. And then once more I breathed aright, and I rehearsed my marriage vow, and swore her welfare to prefer to all things, and for I as now to live, not for myself, but her. Forth, from the glittering spirit's peace and gaiety ineffable, stream to the heart delight and ease, as from an overflowing well, and, orderly deriving thence, its pleasure perfect and allowed. Bright with the spirit shone the sense, as with the sun a fleecy cloud. If now to part with her could make her pleasure greater, sorrow less, I for my epitaph would take. To serve seemed more than to possess, and I perceived, the vision sweet, dimming with happy dew mine eyes, that love and joy are torches lit from altar fires of sacrifice. P. Across the sky the daylight crept, and birds grew garrulous in the grove, and on my marriage morn I slept a soft sleep, undisturbed by love. P. 176 Canto 11. The Wedding. Preludes. I. Platonic love. Right art thou who wouldst rather be a doorkeeper in love's fair house, than lead the wretched revelry, where fools at swinish troughs carouse, but do not boast of being least. And if to kiss thy mistress' skirt amaze thy brain, scorn not the priest, whom greater honors do not hurt. Stand off and gaze, if more than this be more than thou canst understand, revering him whose power of bliss angelic dares to seize her hand, or whose seraphic love makes flight to the apprehension of her lips. And think, the sun of such delight from thine own darkness takes eclipse. And, wouldst thou to the same aspire, this is the art thou must employ. Live greatly, so shalt thou acquire unknown capacities of joy. 2. A demonstration. Nature, with endless being rife, parts each thing into him and her. And, in the arithmetic of life, the smallest unit is a pair. And thus, oh, strange, sweet half of me, if I confess a loftier flame, if more I love high heaven than thee, I more than love thee, thine I am. And, if the world's not built of lies, nor all a cheat the gospel tells, If that which from the dead shall rise be I indeed, not something else. There's no position more secure in reason or in faith than this, that those conditions must endure, which, wanting, I myself should miss. P. 178-3. The symbol. As if I chafed the sparks from glass, and said, it lightens, hitherto. The songs I've made of love may pass for all but for proportion true. But likeness and proportion both now fail, as if a child in glee, catching the flakes of the salt froth, cried, look, my mother, here's the sea. Yet, by the help of what's so weak, but not diverse, to those who know, and only unto those I speak, may far inferring fancy show love's living sea by coasts uncurbed, its depth, its mystery, and its might, its indignation if disturbed, the glittering peace of its delight. 4. Constancy rewarded. I vowed unvarying faith, and she, to whom in full I pay that vow, rewards me with variety, which men who change can never know. The wedding. Life smitten with a feverish chill, the brain too tired to understand. In apathy of heart and will, I took the woman from the hand of him who stood for God, and heard of Christ, and of the Church his bride. The feast, by presence of the Lord, and his first wonder, beautified the mystic sense to Christian men. The bonds in innocency made, and gravely to be entered then. For children, godliness, and aid, and honored, and kept free from smirch. And how a man must love his wife, no less than Christ did love his church, if need be, giving her his life. And, vowing then the mutual vow, the tongue spoke, but intention slept. 'Tis well for us heaven asks not how we take this oath, but how 'tis kept. Oh, bold seal of a bashful bound, which makes the marriage day to be, to those before it and beyond, an iceberg in an Indian sea. P. Now, while she's changing, said the Dean, her bridle for her travelling dress, I'll preach allegiance to your queen. Preaching's the thing which I profess. And one more minute's mine. You know, I've paid my girl a father's debt, and this last charge is all I owe. She's yours, but I love more than yet. You can. Such fondness only wakes when time has raised the heart above the prejudice of youth, which makes beauty conditional to love. Prepare to meet the weak alarms of novel nearness. Recollect, the eye which magnified her charms is microscopic for defect. Fear comes at first, but soon, rejoiced, you'll find your strong and tender loves like holy rocks by druids poised. The least force shakes, but none removes her strength is your esteem. Beware of finding fault, her will's unnerved by blame, from you 'twould be despair. But praise that is not quite deserved will all her noble nature move to make your utmost wishes tree. Yet think, while mending thus your love, of snatching her ideal too. The death of nuptial joy is sloth. To keep your mistress in your wife, keep to the very height your oath, and honor her with arduous life. Lastly, no personal reverence doff life's all externals unto those who pluck the blushing petals off to find the secret of the rose dot. How long she's tarrying. Green's Hotel. I'm sure you'll like. The charge is fair. The wine's good. I remember well. I stayed once, with her mother, there. A tender conscience of her vow that mother had. She's so like her. But Mrs. Fife, much flurried, now whispered, Miss Honor's ready, sir. Whirled off at last, for speech I sought, to keep shy love in countenance. But, whilst I vainly taxed my thought, her voice delivered mine from trance. Look, is not this a pretty shawl? Aunt's parting gift. She's always kind. The new wing spoils Sir John's old hull. You'll see it, if you pull the blind. I drew the silk, in heaven the night was dawning, lovely Venus shone in languishment of tearful light, swathed by the red breath of the sun. P. 183 Canto 12. Husband and Wife. Preludes. I. The married lover. Why, having won her, do I woo? Because her spirit's vestal grace provokes me always to pursue, but, spirit-like, eludes embrace. Because her womanhood is such that, as on court days subjects kiss the queen's hand, yet so near a touch affirms no mean familiarness. Nay, rather marks more fair the height which can with safety so neglect to dread, as lower ladies might, that grace could meet with disrespect. Thus she with happy favour feeds allegiance from a love so high, that thence no false conceit proceeds, of difference bridged, or state put by. Because, although in act and word as lowly as a wife can be, her manners, when they call me lord, remind me 'tis by courtesy, not with her least consent of will, which would my proud affection hurt, but by the noble style that still imputes an unattained desert. Because her gay and lofty brows, when all is one which hope can ask, reflect the light of hopeless snows, that bright in virgin ether bask. Because, though free of the outer court, I am, this temple keeps its shrine sacred to heaven. Because, in short, she's not and never can be mine. 2. The amaranth. Feasts satiate, stars distress with height. Friendship means well, but misses reach, and wearies in its best delight. Vexed with the vanities of speech, too long regarded, roses even afflict the mind with fond unrest. And to converse direct within heaven is oft a labour in the breast. Whatever the uplooking soul admires, whatever the senses' banquet be, fatigues at last with vain desires, or sickens by satiety. But truly my delight was more in her to whom I'm bound for aye yesterday than the day before, and more today than yesterday. Husband and wife. I, while the shopgirl fitted on the sand shoes, looked where, down the bay, the sea glowed with a shrouded sun. I'm ready, Felix, will you pay? That was my first expense for this sweet stranger, now my 3 days' wife. How light the touches are that kiss, the music from the chords of life. Her feet, by half a mile of sea, in spotless sand left shapely prints. With agates, then, she loaded me. The lapidary called them flints. Then, at her wish, I hailed a boat to take her to the ships of war. At anchor, each a lazy mote, black in the brilliance, miles from shore. The morning breeze the canvas filled, lifting us o'er the bright-ridged gulf. And every lurch my darling thrilled, with light fear smiling at itself. And, dashing past the arrogant, asleep upon the restless wave, after its cruise in the Levant, we reached the Wolf, and signal gave for help to board. Within caution meet, my bride was placed within the chair, the red flag wrapped about her feet, and so swum laughing through the air. Look, love, she said, there's Frederick Graham, my cousin, whom you met, you know. And seeing us, the brave man came, and made his frank and courteous bow, and gave my hand a sailor's shake, and said, You asked me to the hearse. I never thought my luck would make your wife and you my guests the first. An honor, cruel, nor did we. Have you not lately changed your ship? Yes, I'm commander, now, said he, with a slight quiver of the lip. We saw the vessel, shone with pride. Took luncheon, I must eat his salt. Parting he said, I fear my bride. Found him unselfish to a fault. His wish, he saw, had come to pass. And so, indeed, her face expressed that should be, whatever 'twas, which made his cousin happiest. We left him looking from above, rich bankrupt, for he could afford to say most proudly that his love was virtue and its own reward. But others loved as well as he. Thought I, half angered, and if fate unfair had only fashioned me as hapless, I had been as great as souls, ambitious, but low-born. If raised past hope by luck or wit, all pride of place will proudly scorn, and live as they'd been used to it. So we too wore our strange estate. Familiar, unaffected, free. We talked until the dusk grew late, of this and that. But, after tea, as doubtful if a lot so sweet as ours was ours in very sooth, like children, to promote conceit, we feigned that it was not the truth. And she assumed the maiden coy, and I adored remorseless charms. And then we clapped our hands for joy, and ran into each other's arms. The Epilogue. Ah, dearest wife, a fresh lit fire sends forth to heaven great shows of fume, and watchers, far away, admire. But when the flames their power assume, the more they burn the less they show. The clouds no longer smirch the sky, and then the flames intensest glow. When far-off watchers think they die, the fumes of early love my verse has figured, you must paint the flame. 'Twould merit the Promethean curse. But now, sweet, for your praise and blame, you speak too boldly, veils are due to women's feelings. Fear not this. Women will vow I say not true, and men believe thine lips they kiss. I did not call you, dear, or love, I think, till after Frank was born. That fault I cannot well remove. The rhymes, but Frank now blew his horn, and Walter barked, on hands and knees, at baby in the mignonette. And all made, full cry, for the trees, where Felix and his wife were set. Again disturbed, crickets have cares. True to their annual use they rose, to offer thanks at evening prayers. In 3 times sacred Sarum close passing, they left a gift of wine at Widow Neal's. Her daughter said, "Oh, ma'am, she's sinking." For a sign, she cried just now, of him that's dead. Mary, he's somewhere close above, weeping and wailing his dead wife, with forceful prayers and fatal love, conjuring me to come to life. A spirit is terrible though dear. It comes by night, and sucks my breath, and draws me with desire and fear. Ah, ma'am, she'll soon be his in death. Vaughan, when his kind wife's eyes were dry, said, this thought crosses me, my dove. If heaven should proffer, when we die, some unconceived, superior love, how take the exchange without despair? Without worse folly how refuse? But she, who, wise as she was fair, for subtle doubts had simple clues, said, custom sanctifies, and faith is more than joy. Ah, how desire in any heaven a different path, though, found at first, it had been higher. Yet love makes death a dreadful thought. Felix, at what a price we live, but present pleasures soon forgot. the future's dread alternative. For, as became the festal time, he cheered her heart with tender praise, and speeches wanting only rhyme, to make them like his winged lays. He discommended girlhood. What? For sweetness like the 10 years' wife, whose customary love is not her passion, or her play, but life, with beauties so maturely fair, affecting, mild, and manifold, may girlish charms more compare than apples green with apples gold. Ah, still unpraised Honoria, heaven, when you into my arms it gave, left not hereafter to be given, but grace to feel the good I have. P. Her own and manhood's modesty made dumb her love, but, on their road, his hand in hers felt soft reply, and like rejoinder found bestowed. And, when the carriage set them down, how strange, said he, 'twould seem to meet, when pacing, as we now this town, a Florence or a Lisbon street, that Laura or that Catherine who, in the remote, romantic years, from Petrarch or Camoens drew their songs and their immortal tears. But here their converse had its end. For, crossing the cathedral lawn, there came an ancient college friend, who, introduced to Mrs. Vaughan, lifted his hat, and bowed, and smiled, and filled her kind large eyes with joy, by patting on the cheek her child, with, "Is he yours, this handsome boy?" Printed by Castle and Company, Limited, La Bella Savage, London, VC.